As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this town council meeting to order. I'd ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments this evening.
All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion to adopt the agenda as written.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an adjustment on the consent agenda. Can we remove 3D and put it to the regular agenda? And I can go over the reasons why. Okay, my bad.
You good. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, item number 3D, I'd like to take that off the consent agenda for some conversation, please.
All right. Any others? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda minus item 3D as in David.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda as presented minus item 3D. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And motion carries. Up next will be the Clayton for You series, Back to School Safety.
Tonight we bring you an episode on, as you said, back to school safety, specifically on school bus safety. We work with our police department to create this video, and you also see some this week on their page, a series of 5 videos about school bus safety.
Clayton for You. As our students gear up to head back to the classroom, we're talking about one important rule everyone must follow. Never pass a stopped school bus. The Clayton Police Department is here to explain what drivers need to know to keep our kids safe this school year.
Let's go through the 3 most common roadway scenarios you may encounter in Clayton. First, a 2-lane road. When the bus stops and the red lights are flashing, everyone must stop, no matter which direction you're coming from. It doesn't matter if you're late or if you're in a hurry, you stop. But what if you don't? That's a ticket and a hefty fine. More importantly, it's a danger to kids. Next, a 2-lane road with a center turn lane. Same rule applies. Everyone stops. The turn lane does not change that. Kids might be crossing, and your job as a driver is to keep those kids safe. Don't try to slip through the turn lane. It's illegal. You will get pulled over. Finally, a 4-lane road with a median or barrier. Here's the exception. Only the traffic moving in the same direction of the bus must stop. If you're on the other side of the median, going in the opposite direction, you can keep driving. If you're on the same side of the road as the bus and you try to pass, not only are you breaking the law, but you're also risking a child's life.
So remember, know the road, know the rules. Let's keep our students safe this school year. Thanks for watching this episode of Clayton for You. See you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathaniel.
Thank you, sir.
Up next on our introduction and special presentation will be the North Carolina Eastern District Inspector of the Year.
So, Mayor, I'd like to ask Jose to come up front here, if you don't mind, so we can honor him this evening as he walks up. Jose's been with the town about a decade at this point. However, he's actually been in the inspections department for the last about 8 years at this point. When he came to the town, he was working for Public Works. At the time, the town was looking to grow our inspections department and give some people some opportunities to have a career, with a long-standing career with the town. And Jose was one of the guys that raised his hand and said, I'd like to try to be an inspector myself. And so we developed our Build Your Own Building Inspector program back in 2017, and Jose was the first person to sign up. Since then, he's been nothing short of remarkable with everything that he's done with his career. As he stands before you today, he is a level 3 across the board in all trades, including fire, which is a big goal for the town in terms of the diversity of our staff. But more importantly, for him personally, it's been a big accomplishment that we're extremely proud of his hard work. And it's fantastic that he was honored this year by the North Carolina Mechanical Association as the Eastern Inspector of the Year, which is no short feat if you can imagine. I can't tell you how many positive comments, thank yous we've received for Jose's work over the years. He takes his job extremely seriously. He cares about who's going to be coming in those buildings after he walks out the door. He's very thorough, and more importantly, he's got that customer service mindset where he's just trying to help everybody get to the final CO, but make sure everything is safe on the back end. So I got to say, personally, I've known Jose and watched his journey here, and I can't think of another person that would be better honored to receive this award. And just want to thank him for all of his commitment here to the town, and just say I'm proud of you, man. You want to say some words? We'd love to hear from you. Step up. Come on. I know you're not quiet.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing today? Well, he said it all. So I started this program, kid, and I say after me has been, a few other inspectors that continue doing this program, and it's been a success so far. And we have created a tremendous group of inspectors that we go out there and take pride of what we do. So I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. All of you has seen me since the beginning, since my level 1. You told me, you again? So here I am again. So again, thank you so much to all of you.
And Jose, we want to thank you for your dedication and commitment to the town of Clayton and the citizens. And it's my honor to present to you the 2025 North Carolina Mechanical Inspector Association Eastern Mechanical Inspector of the Year, presented to Jose Perez in recognition of dedicated service and leadership, July of 2025. Good job. Thank you so much. Up next on the agenda will be the Building and Code Staff Appreciation Day Proclamation. Town of Clayton Proclamation, Building and Code Staff Appreciation Day. Whereas building and code staff are essential, not only to the industries in which they work, but to society as well, by ensuring that buildings and infrastructure are safe for everyday use by our residents, businesses, and patrons. And whereas detailed review of building plans and the inspection process involved to achieve compliance help institute a path forward that keeps the project running efficiently, which reduces cost and ensures a safe structure is built in a timely manner. And whereas code staff review, inspection, and enforce safety building practices in a variety of construction and critical infrastructure components, including structural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, fire systems, accessibility, and energy as they apply to housing, commercial buildings, and public works infrastructure. Whereas building and code staff appreciation is intended to remind the public about the critical role of our community's code officials, our largely unknown guardians of public safety. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Clayton Town Council, we hereby proclaim September 1st, 2025 as Building and Code Safety Appreciation Day, proclaimed this 18th day of August, 2025. And I would like to ask our building and code staff to please come forward and let us present this to you and offer our sincerest appreciation for the great work you do. Up next will be our public hearings. The first one is 2025-10-CZM Dominion Clayton Mixed-Use Conditional Rezoning. I'll give the floor to our Planning Director, Conrad.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Conrad Olmedo, Planning Director. This is a request that we would like to open the public hearing, but have it continued to the September 2nd, and that would be Tuesday of town council meeting. This would give the applicants an opportunity to hold a virtual neighborhood meeting that they will have on Wednesday, August 27th at 6 o'clock. They are here in the building and have some flyers that they would like to hand out to members of the community who are present and to participate in that.
Okay. Thank you, Conrad. So I will open the public hearing and entertain a motion to continue this to the September 2nd, 2025 meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the 2025-10 CZM to September 2nd.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the continuance. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next is the 2025-23 CZM Heavner property conditional rezoning.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Haley Downey. I'm the Assistant Planning Director with the town. And tonight before you, I have the Heavner Property Conditional Rezoning Project 2025-23 CZM. This is a request to rezone two parcels shown on the screen from CRM, which is the Corridor Commercial District, and RLL, which is the Residential Large Lot District, to CZC, the Commercial or Conditional Zoning Commercial District. The properties in total are 74.08 acres in size. They're both located off of Clayton Boulevard, and there is a connection to Lightfoot Drive to the south east. And they are located just east of the Johnston Charter Academy and Walmart Shopping Center. And currently they are vacant, undeveloped. And this aerial image shows the location of the 3 public notice signs that we've placed for this meeting tonight. This is the current zoning map compared to the proposed zoning map. As you can see, most of the parcel is zoned CRM. There is a strip of RLL zoning along the existing neighborhood Dogwood Forest to the south and east. They are proposing to rezone the entire 2 parcels to CZC with this application. The applicant did submit a concept plan since this is a type 3 conditional rezoning. So if approved tonight, this plan, along with any conditions, would run with the approval and be recorded at the Register of Deeds. This is very conceptual in nature to lay out the intensities and proposed uses for the development. So the lighter shade of pink on the screen shows the commercial component. That's going to be about 51 acres. The darker shade of pink is your multifamily component, which is about 16 acres. They are limiting up to 12 units per acre for development for the multifamily component. Internal to the site, you can see the red dashed line. That is a general circulation pattern to be finalized at site plan and construction drawing review. And then they also have perimeter buffers shown along the project boundaries. So along the neighborhood to the south and east, they're proposing a 40-foot perimeter buffer. To the eastern undeveloped property, they're proposing a 20-foot buffer. And then to the west, which is Johnston Charter Academy, they're proposing 10-foot buffers. They are also proposing 2 stormwater ponds on the site. These would be designed at construction drawing review and approved through the stormwater ordinance by the town's engineering department. They are also proposing various cross-access connections. So to the west, they're proposing to connect into Scholar Drive at Johnston Charter Academy. They're also proposing to connect into Financial Drive through Town Center Boulevard. They're proposing in that same area to connect to the undeveloped corner parcel at Clayton Boulevard and Financial Drive, which is currently under review for the future ABC store location. Additionally, they're proposing a stub street to the east to the undeveloped property in the event that that is developed in the future for commercial, and then to the south into the Dogwood Forest neighborhood on Lightfoot Drive. They're proposing a limited access for emergency services. And then they're also proposing 3 access points on Clayton Boulevard, one of which will be a right in, right out only, and then 2 will be a signalized intersection. They were required to submit a traffic study with this application. They had in their traffic study an anticipated build-out date of 2030 with a 2% growth rate. This was reviewed both by NCDOT and by the town's consultant, and NCDOT required improvements were included in your agenda packets in their letter, and those were also outlined in the conditions of approval before you tonight. Any changes to the intensities or densities in this plan would be subject to amendments to the TIA as needed to be determined at site plan. In terms of consistency and compatibility, these parcels are designated as high-density residential in the town's growth plan, the future land use map, with an overlay of community center. That does envision a mixture of non-residential and multifamily development, which is what they are proposing here tonight. So it is considered to be consistent with the comp plan, and they are also consistent with the comp plan's density of 12 units per acre envisioned in this area. There are 37 conditions of approval proposed. I'm just going to highlight various conditions here on the next 2 slides. The first one being annexation timing. The parcels are currently located in the ETJ. Prior to construction drawing approval, they would be required to annex to receive town services. The applicant also is proposing principal and secondary uses that are prohibited in their conditions. So all of the uses listed in the conditions of approval, specifically condition number 12 and number 13, are prohibited uses. They would otherwise be permitted to utilize anything permitted in the CZC and CRM district of the use table. For the perimeter buffers, they've specified in their conditions further the required buffers along specific properties and boundaries. And they've also written in language to allow them to remove buffers along adjacent commercially zoned property if those properties were ever to be acquired and brought into this development. For mass grading standards, the applicant has opted under permit choice to fall under the July 21st adopted UDO text amendments. They are not proposing any incentives at this time, but they are proposing the 40-foot perimeter buffer instead. And that is in condition number 21. Traffic improvements were outlined in condition number 32, and those align with NCDOT's review and the letter included in your agenda packet. Again, the TIA update in condition number 35 requires any changes to the uses or intensities to go back through and update that traffic study as necessary. And then as of today, the applicant has proposed a new condition that is not included in your agenda packet, but is on the screen before you. That is condition number 37. This would clarify that cross-access from this parcel to the stub street of Lightfoot Drive would be for emergency services only, with the final design at site plan construction drawing to eliminate any through traffic. Should the rezoning be approved tonight, the concept plan and associated conditions would run with the land. The planning department is recommending approval with conditions consistent with the comprehensive plan 2045, and planning board on their July 28th meeting also unanimously recommended approval. And this is motion number 1 included in your agenda packet. And with that, if you have any questions for staff, I'm happy to answer them. The applicant also has an extensive PowerPoint presentation prepared, and I believe their traffic engineer is available to speak as well.
All right, any questions for staff? Mr. Casey.
Thank you for that, Haley, for that presentation. A couple questions regarding the stormwater pond. Is that a dry pond or is that going to be considered a wet pond?
I believe it's a wet pond.
Wet pond. Okay. Other question, obviously the cross access, the emergency access is, can we get a little bit more details on that? Maybe if, I just want to make sure the community is aware and understands that. So if we could elaborate on that and what that entails. Other areas of the community maybe where there's something similar as well. And apparently you're prepared for this, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mayor and council, the cross connection would just need to comply with the minimum fire code requirements for access regarding the weight, the the access could hold for the fire trucks to access, and then security by Knox box for access for emergency use only. That would not limit foot traffic, just vehicular traffic.
Okay, so is it, what kind of gate is it? Is it like just a standard rail gate, or is it more like a fence?
Those are typically acceptable, yeah. A
Okay.
swinging or sliding type gate.
Okay, so it's at the discretion, I guess, of the applicant?
Correct.
Okay. And then, and maybe this is an applicant question, but I assume, are they sometimes paved roads, unpaved roads? Do you typically see in those?
Typically paved asphalt or concrete, but there are exceptions to it as long as they meet the weight rating.
Okay, so you've seen some stuff that's been more discreet, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Sims?
Can I see what that looks like on the map as far as where the emergency road is?
Yes. So it would be right here, would be that connection. There's an existing stub street from this neighborhood. So they would be connecting right here for emergency services.
Okay, thank you. Can I see that traffic flow report? Thank you.
Mr. Casey?
Haley, sorry, Mr. Councilman Sims made me think of some more questions that I think are pertinent. So with that access, the fire access, so are they allowed to maybe put like a no trespassing sign there? Is that the discretion of the applicant, or is that the discretion of the community, or how does that typically come into play? Do you know, or is that maybe?
I believe they would be fine to put a no trespassing sign.
But it's not a public road technically. Is it a private road or technically considered a public road? Or?
I believe it's a private road for the development.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to add to the connection came up, it is a UDO requirement to connect to existing stub street. So that's how that came up. And hearing the concerns from the neighborhood, understanding they don't want through traffic, that's where we came with the fire emergency services access only.
Understood. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you, Haley. I'll now give the floor to the applicant.
Mr. Mayor, council members, appreciate the opportunity to be here to present the project to you. We hope it's going to be a successful project, not just for us, but for Clayton and the community. And I do want to thank staff and all the hard work that they've done over the last, 8+ months or so to get to this place. And I think, you have a fine staff, and I think they should be commended for the hard work they've done to help work with our team to get to this place. So, my name is Tom Lowell. I'm with Casto. We have our design team here, our traffic engineer from Kimberly Horn, our planning and design, planning and engineers from Withers and Ravenel. So they're available to answer any questions as we get to the end. And we can, dive into the project here. And so before we kind of get into the specifics of the project, I just want to give you a brief kind of overview of Casto and who we are. We are a 99-year-old privately owned full-service real estate company. What does a full-service real estate company mean? It means that we go from property acquisition through design and construction, leasing, property management, financing, all that's kind of done in-house. So we have a lot of capabilities to do a variety of different projects. Within our system, we have over 26 million square feet of commercial properties, which are primarily retail properties. We have over 5,300 residential units, multifamily, some standalone, and some part of mixed-use projects. So again, we have that capability to integrate these different types of uses together and bring what we believe is a successful project. So we've learned from the ups and downs of this over the 99 years of how to make these things happen. Generally, we're located in the upper Midwest, where the home base is in Columbus, but we have offices here in Cary and in Sarasota. Our team that's here, it has lived in the Cary area for a long time, or in the Triangle community for a long time. So we're not coming in and flying in and out and telling you what you need. We live here. We see what's happening. We live with those. What we do, we have to be able to stand behind. So I think that's important to know. As an example of some of the things that we do, I think it's Park West Village is in Morrisville. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with it. Others may not be, but it's about a 100-acre property. So it's a little bit larger than what the Heavner property is, but it's a mixed-use project. It's got about 650,000 square feet of commercial. It's got up to 680 residential units and a 100-room hotel and office entitlements. That's not all been built out, but it continues to evolve over the time that we've owned that. We started development in 2010, and here we're 2015, we still own it, and we're putting investment back into the property. And it's got, some of the key tenants are Target and TJ Maxx and Nordstrom Rack and so on, and a mix of national, local, and regional restaurants. And I think that's important, along with shops of the same kind of mix. It's important to have that mix because you get a flavor, that there are some phenomenal local operators. And it's really important to have them mixed in with these other regional and national operators. This also included some significant offsite improvements for roadway, put in 5 signals. We widened about a half mile of NC 54 as well. A few other projects, just a quick highlight. One is Hartwell Village, just outside of Clemson in South Carolina. Again, it's a mixed-use project. It's got student housing and it's got retail, and again, a mix of local and national restaurants. The Grove at Town Center is a public-private partnership. It includes residential, a town or community park, city park, library, marketplace, and commercial space. And then Centerpoint at Waterside, which is in Sarasota, again, is a mixed use, but this time it's with medical office and your retail and restaurants and so on. So again, there's kind of a broad range of the different things. And I think if you look at some of the photographs, you kind of see the quality that we're trying to bring to the table. And that brings us to this property, the Heavner property. I know Haley went through a lot of the kind of background of it, so I don't want to go back through all that, but I think there are a few key things that we want to highlight as we start looking at the property that I think are important to how we develop it. First of all, there's about 50 feet of topography from front to back. And that's important because when you start developing large anchor retail space, they have large flat slabs, and you have parking areas that have to be relatively flat. So when you start having to deal with that kind of topography, it ends up having to move around a lot of dirt to try to create those slabs and those spaces. Secondly, we found wetlands and stream buffers on the property, which we didn't expect initially. And those have been confirmed by the state and the Corps at this point. So, we have worked around those things and tried to minimize any impacts to them. We do have some slight impacts, but we're trying to work around those as best as possible to make the project work. Haley mentioned, the concept plan here for you. I don't want to go back through all the key things, but I think, the key parts that she did talk about are where the connection to Lightfoot Drive, which is a UDO requirement and required by, fire and emergency management systems. It's not something that we proposed or desired, because we don't see that as a benefit to us from traffic going from the project into Dogwood Forest. And we don't see people coming through Dogwood Forest to get to us. We have enough access off of US 70, Town Center Boulevard, and again, Scholar Drive. And we think it's kind of probably a minor part of that too. But really we have kind of 4 key access points, which we think are really what's going to drive most people coming in and out of our center. Stormwater ponds, are located strategically to try to help buffer from our development from the adjacent property as much as possible. And we have provided the 40-foot buffers along the perimeter. We did hold 2 community meetings Let me just go back one thing. I just want to make sure it's clear. The existing ABC property is not part of this project. So we did hold 2 community meetings. The last one was after the planning board. It was August 6th, where we discussed, the project and where it has evolved from and to. On the left of the screen, you can see this was the plan that was initially presented at the original planning board or community meeting before we submitted. Since then, we've made some changes, and you can see on the right is the concept plan where we have moved the stormwater pond into an area that had residential buildings in the initial concept. And that was done at the request of the residents to try to help provide a greater buffer to them between their residents and the project. And again, the Lightfoot access, you can see on our plan, we didn't propose it, we weren't interested in it, but it is there because it is a UDO requirement. So out of the community meetings, really, I would try to boil it down to say there's probably 3 concerns, first of all. One is, I think, very significant, is they're concerned about the connection of Lightfoot, which we've already talked about, and how that functions and restricts access for customers or guests of our development running through the neighborhood in or out. And I think we've committed to on the concept plan, and now we've committed to even further with a written condition about this, is it is emergency access only. And we will work with the staff to come up with a design of that, which will be some kind of gated, a Knox box. What that means is the fire department has the keys. We don't. So I think that's important to know. That's not for us to be going in and opening it up anytime we wish. It is there solely for emergency access. As far as what the material is to, from an access standpoint, to try to discourage use of it and make it less visible, we would look at things like grass pavers, which are kind of concrete pavers with grass growing up through to kind of hide that so it's not as visible and obvious. But again, that's going to be subject to review and approval by staff as we go through the construction drawings. Traffic, that was another concern about the traffic on 70 and how that's being handled, and we'll get into that in a moment. But no, the traffic study has been approved by DOT and approved by your staff. And we'll go through some of the specifics of that coming up. And then the buffers along the Lightfoot Drive residence. So along this portion of the property. We've tried to work through a 40-foot buffer, which is considered, it's a type D opaque buffer based upon the plantings that would occur in there. We have heard some concerns about it's the visual, and it's also concerns about residents maybe of the multifamily component, or even people who are visiting the commercial component might wander into the neighborhood or be going into the neighborhood. So there are some concerns of security and other things there. So what are we doing? In that buffer, which is a 40-foot buffer, it includes, by our code, 4 upper story trees, 8 understory trees, and 35 shrubs across for every 100 feet of length of that buffer. The code requires a mix of types of plants. What we're committing to is that all of those are evergreen, so that you don't have a period of time where the visual is lost. So that means it could be magnolias, hollies, or other types of evergreen shrubs and so forth. From the discouraging pedestrian use of going through that, again, the same type of plants, like could be hollies. That I don't like walking through hollies. And, barberries, I used to have some in my yard. They were awful to deal with, but those types of plants are things that we're willing to put into that, in that planting zone, to help prevent and discourage anybody who might go through that, crossing through it. There is a list of plants that are allowed by the UDO, and I would say that if I called those kind of prickly plants, the shrubs we've looked at, it's probably 20 plus type of choices, and the understory trees is maybe 15 plus. So we'll utilize that list. But we'd like to be able to have a little bit of variety within there, so it's not all just, several hundred feet of, holly trees all across, or the same type of shrubs everywhere. But if you can mix them in and utilize those lists that are already in the UDO, then we can accomplish what we need to help discourage any pedestrians from trying to cross through into the neighborhood. In addition, we are trying to look at, and we're doing surveys and other things to look at places along the perimeter where the vegetation may be thick enough already that it meets either components of the required buffer, or it's just thick enough that somebody may want it just to remain. So if we can relieve it natural and supplement it, we'll do that in those areas. And that may mean for us that we have to build some retaining walls along our side of the inside of the buffer zone, but we're willing to do that. We do have a property owner, and it's been added as a condition along the southern part of the property that 40-foot buffer, and we have some wetlands there, remain natural. And we're willing to commit to that and have done that through the condition. That brings us to the roadway improvements. Primarily, our roadway improvements are on US 70, but we do have some on Financial Drive, and then we have the extension of Town Center Boulevard and extension of Scholar Drive. And again, the study has been reviewed and approved by DOT and Clayton staff. So what do our US 70 and Clayton Boulevard improvements consist of? First part, it's a continuous right turn lane across the entire frontage of the property, and that goes actually across the proposed ABC property as well. So it goes from Financial Drive all the way to our eastern access, which is Access C. Access A, which is not shown on here, will be on the next slide, is a right in, right out. At Access B, which is the existing ABC store, we have a full signalized intersection, but that is called a through-cut intersection. And what that means is that it restricts the movements from Gateway Drive to our development or vice versa. And on Access C, we have a signalized left in, which allows left turns in through a signal, and the rest of the movements are right in or right out. On Financial Drive, we'll be adding a left turn lane into Town Center Boulevard, and again, extending Town Center Boulevard and Scholar Drive into the property. The Scholar Drive and even the Town Center Boulevard extensions, we think will help with the school and giving them some different avenues that they can run through our property, two signals, and either move westbound or eastbound, and it may alleviate some of the issues that you have now at Financial Drive. And again, here's the signalized intersections. You can see on site access B, there are some diamonds or medians or pork chops or different terminology for the concrete medians, which prevent running from Gateway to our property and vice versa. And then you have an access C, the left turn in. So the key part of what the signals may do, and it's a little bit hard to quantify, is that we believe that adding these signals in between the signal at Walmart and the one at Shotwell are going to create some additional gaps in the traffic flow, which should help Fernwood Drive in and out. And our traffic engineer can speak to that further, if you would like him to. And so here we go with some of the architectural. The UDO has architectural requirements, which we feel comfortable with. We have a couple minor things in the conditions to kind of help give us some better opportunity and flexibility. But again, these are kind of the images and kind of influence that we're going to have on some of the front end parcels where you may have freestanding quick service or sit down restaurants or other service type users. This could be some of the inline type space, anchor tenant type details, junior anchor type architecture, and then a multifamily. Again, all that's still to be kind of worked out, but the idea for us is to create something that's timeless. We don't want to create something that's a fad that's going to be out of style in the next 3, 5, 10 years. We want it to last. We also want it to be sustainable and maintainable so that we're able to maintain it at a quality that it needs to be. Oops. And this is our, come on. Oops. Haley, need a little help. How do we get I lost the, sorry about that. I was trying to go, I went back. Back. Sorry about that. So this is our current concept plan. And again, I say it's an illustrative concept plan. We think this is kind of the direction things are heading, but nothing's finalized yet. We're still working to try to bring in tenants and get agreements and working through design elements. But I would highlight a couple of things. One is, the pond is still here along the side. We've got the pond here kind of buffering the neighborhood. This building has been pulled away from the property line. What that means is the parking on the perimeter is still there up against the buffer, but usually the parking at the extremities is the least used. So, during peak times, will it be utilized and people be in and out of those parking spaces? Yes. What are those peak times? Is it Saturdays? Is it holidays? That's to be determined. But on a daily basis, it's unlikely that you're going to have a lot of people parking in and out of those perimeter spaces. Again, you can see along the front, there are sit-down, quick service type uses, anchor retail, shops, and then the multifamily to the back. Our timing on this project, I think, is of importance to everybody as well. On this type of project, once we start, we have hard deadlines that we have to meet to get people open. So I would expect that we start next spring, that we're probably in a 2.5 to 3 year completion cycle on everything, except maybe there are some lingering out parcels or something like that, but it's going to be generally completed. Offsite improvements completed with the first opening, infrastructure completed, on-site infrastructure completed at the same time. So it is not a project that's going to last over 5 to 10 years. It's a hurry up and get to the finish. When we bring this to the table, it does have some economic impact to the community. How do we arrive at some of what that means is typically the things that we can probably kind of more easily quantify are property tax and sales tax. The property tax, we look at it from the perspective of what are the construction costs, land costs, and then evaluate what the typical appraisal are based upon that. So we come in looking and expecting that based on current tax rates, we think there'd be about $1.9 million of tax benefit to Clayton and Johnson County. Of that, about $800,000 is expected to be coming directly to Clayton. And again, there's no property tax coming in at this time. The property is in Johnson County, and it will have to be annexed as part of the project. And typically, the full value of that is about 4+ years after we start development. Once people open, there's a little bit of a roll for a year before you get that full value. Sales tax impact, based upon kind of some averages and expected sales from the types of users we're looking at, we think it's going to be somewhere around $200 million annually. And based on the sales tax rate of the state and local of 6.75%, that gets to about $13.5 million on an annual basis. How that's distributed, I think staff can probably better answer that than we can, because there are formula for state and county and municipality size of it. Our capital investment, we kind of rough estimate right now is somewhere in the order of $125 million, and it may be higher. And that brings me back to the concept plan again. So with that, just again, our team is here to answer any questions you may have. We respectfully ask for your consideration and approval of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant, Mr. Casey?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate the presentation. You answered some of the questions I had. You talked about the terrain, and this is something I typically ask on projects like this. Would the applicant be willing to do a double silt fence along the border for any type of erosion concerns or so? If there's not, if you're going to leave it vegetated the way it is currently. I understand that may not be necessary, but.
Yeah, we are, and we've included that as a condition already.
Okay, thank you, sir. Cool, thank you, appreciate that. Sorry I missed that in the condition. Other thing I had, on the site plan you showed with the layouts of the parking lots and stuff, so I saw there's quite a bit of trees within the parking lot, so is that just something, it seems like that's typically a little bit above and beyond our typical UDA requirement, or is that something that?
No, I think that's just, it's a conceptual plan, but we, as we go through the design, we're working through what those islands are and how the UDO, we comply with the UDO and other tenant-specific requirements.
Right, okay, thank you. Regarding the apartments, do you have an idea yet? Are they going to be interior corridor or exterior corridor right now?
Not determined yet, but I would suggest, I'm not sure there'll be interior corridor at this point.
Okay.
But I will just say from that perspective, doesn't mean that it's a lower level. I think we're expecting that we're going to have, in that upper range of quality on that.
Right, okay. And then one of the questions I had, like, how do you typically police your current centers? Do you typically make it a requirement of local law enforcement, or do y'all have private security, or how is that? Is that depending upon the shopping center or the situation?
Yeah, and that depends, as we get through into the property management evaluation, we have centers that we don't have private security, and we have some that we do. So we just have to look at that as we get down the road on that and what we do to accommodate that if there is a need.
Okay. I do have a couple questions if you brought a traffic engineer, but I did have one other comment. I've lived in Clayton my whole life, and I saw, those conceptual drawings are pretty, and, I liked some of the aesthetic designs of it, but I also saw some pretty prominent names that maybe this community is not accustomed to maybe seeing. A lot of the people in the community probably go to White Oak or somewhere else like that to do their shopping in lieu of staying in Johnston County. I don't really have a question, but can you attest to any of that? Or, I saw a movie theater, a lot of people want a movie theater in Clayton, but,
Yeah, the movie theater was a picture from Park West Village.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that's in the process of probably going through redevelopment to remove it just because of the state of theaters.
I know those
at this time.
stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
But, okay, well, appreciate that. I do have a couple questions from the traffic engineer. I don't know if anybody else from council wants to ask.
I got a question from traffic.
Okay. Anyone else with questions for the applicant?
So can you pull up the map that shows the apartments and the buildings and that kind of thing?
Oh, here we go again. I tried to go back and it didn't go back. So before I mess it up again. Yeah, okay, yep. That one. The other side. Got it. Is that what you're looking for?
Yep,
Yes.
it is. So can you share with me about trash removal, and do you have a specific plan for that or a theoretical plan for that? It's going to be centralized? Is it going to be spread out around this shopping center? Or what plan do you have for that?
So I can address it through maybe components, okay? So for the multifamily, they'll probably have a centralized location.
Okay.
In this concept, that is located up here.
Okay.
So that, as residents are leaving, they can drop their trash at that location, and then it gets picked up and hauled off. The large anchor retailers typically have it in and around their loading docks. Same with some of these other junior anchors. And then for these smaller buildings that may be out in the parking lot or, whatever, use we end up here. And again, the out parcels, they'll have their own, but typically they may be close to the building or they may be out in their parking lots. But, and each entity is responsible for, contracting for their own hauling.
Got it. The other question I had, I just want to clarify what I heard. So I'm excited about what your plantings are going to be for the buffers, because I wouldn't want to get through the barberry, because I have that in my yard, and you don't want to come close to that, not to mention get to the holly. But you mentioned that there are some areas that had natural vegetation already that looked like it might be specific, and you were going to leave that natural. Is that what you said?
Yes, we're doing some tree surveys to evaluate whether some of the upper story trees meet the requirements, and if there are enough, understory trees in there. I doubt there's shrubs in there that would meet the requirements, so I'd imagine we'd have to go back in and plant the shrubs. We may have to supplement with some understory trees and maybe some upper story trees as well. And then along the southern boundary, that is being left natural at the property owner's request.
Okay, thank you. I think.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tom, I have a couple more questions. The stormwater ponds, well, first off, main question is, this went under the new UDO, is that correct?
Yes, they did opt for a permit choice, so the July 21st UDO.
Okay, so I know in our new UDO, we made some provisions regarding light pollution and, low light amenities and stuff like that. So you guys are coming in at our newest and most probably aggressive UDO that we've had in the town of Clayton in quite a while. Is that safe to say, Haley?
Yes, so any site plans that are submitted would be reviewed under the current UDO in place.
Okay, perfect, good deal. All right, that's it. I think.
All right, thank you, Tom. I think we are going to want to hear from your traffic engineer.
Yep.
Good evening, Travis Flewitt with Kimley Horn and Associates. You have specific questions or?
Yeah, my two main things, 2% traffic count. That's kind of hard for me to understand and get the logic behind the traffic count increase. And then, being able to turn left going into Raleigh, how is that going to be handled with their only right turns out of the development? I know that there's obviously a left turn going to Raleigh at the Walmart Shopping Center road, but is that going to be the only one, or how are we going to kind of maybe discourage people from going to just that one stoplight to go that way?
Yeah, so this shows it pretty well. Oh, look at that. That's pretty neat. Yeah, so this signal, this is what we call the through cut. This will allow people to turn left out to go west toward Raleigh. The current configuration of that intersection is left turns only from the main line onto the side streets, but we are proposing to reconfigure that to this through cut condition to it allows all the lefts. The only movements that are prohibited are the north-south through movements from access B to Gateway Drive, but you can still turn left from access B to go west toward Raleigh, Knightdale, or Garner, and you can turn left from Gateway to go back into Clayton.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't catch that earlier, and that looks like that's 2 lanes to turn left out of the development?
That's correct. There'll be 2 lanes turning left to go toward Raleigh and 2 lanes turning right to go back toward Clayton.
Okay, and then you also have the ability to turn left currently at the Walmart Shopping Center. So how easily accessible is your site going to be to that additional stoplight over there?
Yeah, so traffic will be able to access, to get out through the shopping center, out across Financial to get through and out by the signal at Walmart. But I think this one here will be much more readily accessible for most of the people visiting this center and for the residents. It should be a pretty easy access. This intersection is projected to operate at level of service B in the morning and level of service C in the afternoon. So they operate quite well. They're a pretty new configuration, but NCDOT is very much in support of these because they're much more efficient than a standard full movement signal.
Right.
So it should operate quite well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I never leave Clayton, so I'll always be making a right out of that intersections. It seems way better than White Oak, which is a lot of the people around this community are familiar with, and the challenges that they have, especially during peak times.
Sure.
So appreciate that. And the other question was the 2% traffic count, logic behind that. The town of Clayton's definitely growing more than 2%.
Yeah, so traditionally we look at historic growth rates in traffic on the roadways. Population growth doesn't necessarily translate into vehicular growth in traffic, and that number was arrived at in coordination with both town staff and NCDOT staff based on those historic trends.
Okay, so this has been vetted by the DOT and...
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Mr. Sims?
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. Doggone traffic always drives me crazy.
Me too. So I became a traffic engineer.
Well, yeah. I have learned that's the profession I should have took, because no matter what, you guys always say that there's not going to be a lot of traffic, but for some reason, no matter where I have always lived, there's always been a lot of traffic. With that being said, could you give the explanation could you explain level C's and B's and all that, please?
Sure. So we break up delays. We measure delays and try to simplify it by grading it level of service A, B, C, or D, kind of like in school. Level of service A is the lowest amount of delay per vehicle, generally about 0 to 10 seconds per vehicle at the intersection. B is a little bit more, like 10 to 20. C is 20 to 35, and then so on. Level of service A through D, like in school, are generally considered acceptable. E is starting to be in the unacceptable range, and then F, just like in school, is what we consider generally unacceptable, so long delays. And there's a little bit of subtlety and difference between signalized intersections and unsignalized intersections. Sometimes on side streets that are unsignalized, you may have long delays, but there's really not much you can do about it, particularly on busy corridors like this. But we try to achieve more acceptable levels of service everywhere we can.
Have you ever seen level E?
Yes.
So from the Walmart light, okay, to the Shotwell light, do you know during high peak currently what the volume is?
I can look that up. And are you looking for a daily number or peak hour?
Whatever your traffic engineering number is, that you are the man, you tell me what it is.
Okay.
I think if you tell us what the level is, that gives us a good idea of how you define B, C, and D. Don't you think, Michael?
That's fine.
So, for example, in front of the ABC store, the peak hour volume, you have about the two-way volume is almost 3,000 vehicles in the peak hour. And it's about the same AM and PM. It's just more westbound AM, eastbound PM.
And that's from what time to what time?
That's in the morning peak hour from the peak 60 minutes between 7 and 9 a.m. And then same thing, the peak 60 minutes falling between 4 and 6 p.m. It's about 3,000 vehicles in that hour.
Okay, so you're saying then it's only going to be a 2% increase to that particular number?
2% per year is the projected, what we call background traffic. So the way we do a traffic study is we count the existing traffic, and then we grow it to the future year, the projected build out of this development. So that was 2030. So we applied 5 years of growth at 2% per year. We added traffic for any other approved developments that are known but not built yet. And then we add site traffic on top of that. So the effective growth rate is well more than 2% per year. The 2% is just the background, kind of the
So
baseline
that's
that we're
about
adding on
60
top of
cars we
that.
just add.
Yeah.
Yeah, so explain to me, when we add these traffic lights, okay, in between each, because you just said 3,000 in between, so what does that cause in between on each one of those? Do you have that?
So
From access B, just to say, from access B to C?
yeah, so at full build out, make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. So that volume is going to increase to from about 3,000 vehicles to about 3,600 to 3,700 vehicles at full build out. That's including background and site traffic.
You're saying? All right, thank you.
Sure.
So I've got a quick question, and you may or may not be able to answer this. That entrance at Dogwood has always been a problem for getting in and out, especially at peak times. What do you anticipate these signalized lights and these delays to do for that entrance and being able to get in and out? I mean, common sense would tell me it's going to be better because you're delaying traffic, and there's no delay now between Walmart and Shotwell Road for a light. It just builds up and stacks up.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to me that these two lights are going to create some delays that would help that entrance and getting in and out.
Yes, they should. They should create gaps in traffic. Certainly, we're adding more traffic, so I can't say it's going to be better, but the gaps would help with that.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this has been noted as a public hearing, and I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. Name and address, if you don't mind, Bill.
Good evening, Mayor, Council Pepper, and staff. My name is Bill Brewer. I live at 744 Lightfoot Drive, located in the Dogwood Forest subdivision. I'm a 49-year resident of Clayton and a 33-year resident of Dogwood Forest. And I'm also a former town manager for the town of Clayton. My family and I chose to remain in the Clayton because of its small town feel, livability, and quality of life. A quality that has been preserved by the past councils and hopefully will continue to be preserved by future councils. We are not against Costo or this project. We, as residents of Dogwood Forest, want to be assured that our quality of life is protected. Zoning based on the presentations by the developer at the community meetings on February 26th and August 6th, in the plan board meeting at August 18th, we feel our quality of life is not being protected. At the February community meeting, Mr. Lowell presented a proposal, which he showed earlier, the concept plan. After input from the community, he promised to revisit the plan and come back with the community if any substantial changes were made. We heard nothing. At the July 18th meeting, we were surprised that a new, different concept plan had been presented. That plan did include some of the things that we had suggested at the community meeting. They were never discussed with us. So we were really surprised about that. Then we find out at a community meeting last week that even a different concept plan, which is the one you saw tonight, no buildings or anything located in it. We were always of the impression that if you were doing a CZ3 type concept or rezoning request, you had to present a concept plan which showed some location of the buildings and modifications of it. In the past, his concept plan also showed a 40-foot buffer. From former councils in this thing, that 125-foot buffer was there for an RL zoning, was put there to protect the community. We're asking that that buffer remain in some form to protect the community more than 40 feet. We asked Mr. Lowell why just 40 feet. We were told they needed all the property in order for their concept to work. We have felt like from the very beginning that we wanted to be good neighbors. He has told us he wants to be good neighbors. We haven't seen a lot of effort to that effect. We're not against the plan. The subdivision really wants it because we know it's a big asset for the town of Clayton. However, we want to be sure that Dogwood Forest is protected from that. You have seen evidence of flood. We have seen evidence of flooding in the past. Recently, this board approved another subdivision on Shotwell Road, which is also going to be dumping water into Little Creek. We want to make sure these retention ponds are sufficient to handle the water out of the new subdivision, as well as handle the water from that new subdivision that y'all recently approved. We don't have that assurance. We want to protect not only the people along Lightfoot, we want to protect the entire subdivision. As for the traffic problem that you've heard about, true, the stoplight is going to present a gap. All you're going to do is stop the traffic on 40 so the traffic can come out of the shopping center. Where's the gap? As far as security is concerned, we have never had problems. Because we are a secluded subdivision, we feel like if we can keep a larger portion of that buffer, that our security will remain. We've had very little vandalism. We've had very little theft in the community. We feel like we are a community over there. We have a good quality of life. We want that quality of life to remain as it is. Our security, our flooding, access to Lightfoot, we were told from 25 years ago, Jody, you were on the board when this happened. We were told 25 years ago, Lightfoot would never be open. In addition to that, this board closed another road into that same piece of property to keep traffic out of Lightfoot, out of Dogwood. We're a one access in, one access out. That's what we want to remain. We're asking this board to consider and take into consideration everything that past boards have done to protect that. We feel like we're a valuable asset to the Clayton community. Are we? We're not real sure based on what we've seen over the last three or four months. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Greetings, I'm Art Mercer of 741 Lightfoot Drive. Every meeting I've been to, the key thing has been separation and traffic. In 2003 and 2006, the participants to successful past rezonings of the Heavner property agreed to a regional separation between Dogwood Forest and the planned development. Into some discussions, the separation was from 300 to 500 feet, then 100, and was adopted at 125. The current zoning map for the involved parcels clearly shows an area bordering Dogwood Forest zone residential large lot. The area scales to 125 feet. This protective zoning strategy has been in place since October the 17th, 2006. We, the residents of Dogwood Forest, do see this as a promise kept by the town of Clayton. Why was the developer and the planning board staff not able to provide the planning board with the background for the 125 foot that's shown on your zoning map there? For any reason, for any rezoning request, there's a permanent history. A paper trail. The town of Clayton minutes are available on the AM legal website, where I quickly found the supporting documentation in 10 minutes or less, and you've of course been forwarded that. As a former developer and builder, I can assure you that looking at the zoning map for this property, I would quickly recognize that it was adopted to protect adjacent Dogwood Forest. What is the legal basis background for 125? Fact one, June the 16th, 2003, adopted Burton Parish closure. Fact two, adopted closure, unopened Lightfoot Road. Town Council meetings 17th October 2006. Fact 3, Councilor Grain has stated he wanted to be clear. This is special use, an 125-foot strip between Dogwood Forest, and the proposed rezoning remains 125 feet. Mayor McLeod and others stated affirmative. Rezoning request adopted. What are the benefits? A zone separation provide benefits not only for Dogwood Forest residents, but for the customers and residents of the proposed area. An adopted zone separation enhances the view both ways, and it mitigates noise, disturbances, property value, visual intrusion, environmental impact, erosion, pollution, storm runoff, and wildlife displacement. Distance and density of natural and undisturbed areas improve the mitigation of those concerns. Residential large lot protection strategy. The developer stated if the 125 remains, he can reduce his buffer to 10 feet. Yes, he can, but distance becomes 125, 135 commercial. The lots have to be 40,000. You get very few houses. Thank you, Town Council, for the job you do. Your supporters requested to vote yes for the rezoning request only if it keeps a 125-foot barrier.
Hey, guys. Good evening. Mayor, dignitaries, my name is Matthew Wood, and I live at 736 Lightfoot Drive. I know that this is going to happen, but let's let it happen in a way that doesn't affect my family so greatly. Because that biggest box store on page 19 is right at the corner of my backyard. And 30 or 40 feet from my fence, where there's about a 30 diameter circle, which 14 to 15 deer every night lay, you're wanting to throw a bunch of concrete. So you're going to destroy my night sky with ambient light. I'm going to be noise pollution to death for the next 3 years while this gets built. I'm glad it's getting built. Please bring me a Costco. I got to drive to Raleigh to get my mom's cheese. I don't want to have to do that. So I accept the modernity, but let's do it with a little bit of compassion for what you are going to take away. And that is 75 acres of pristine woods that my kids have grown up in. It's 30 or 40 feet from Dan's pool. And Mr. Tom, who's got cancer, I can't imagine what the bulk fires and all the stripping of the land is going to do to the air for the next 3 or 4 years. I don't want a Class A tree or bush or holly. Drive out 42 to where Flowers is. You need to put a berm in between us. Something that God made that will absorb all this pollution-ridding stuff that you're removing from behind my house. It's bad enough I get to hear the low hum of the generators and large containers of salsa being delivered to Costco. But I would like to preserve some of the essence of this beautiful house that I bought that was unfettered, and now you want to put it right in my backyard, probably less than a good 3-point shot. Wow, I got more time. The idea that this is going to mitigate traffic is ridiculous. Taking a 2% number and saying that 3,000 people is going to be increased because of a traditional trend, you ain't been to Clayton long enough. I've been here for 25 years, and I was amazed when we got here and all this beautiful infrastructure at the new Lowe's and stuff, and it wasn't being used, and now it's so congested as to just be a constant pain. And my kids went to the charter school. You know how long it takes to get to that school now? And you're telling me that a light which allows you to mitigate the traffic and drive it farther back to Guy Road, which that's all it's going to do. It's not going to create a pause. It's not, because the amount of people coming in is so high, all you're doing is backing it up for a little bit. So please save some of the trees, get some more cops on there. So what is the drag strip that is now Highway 70 coming into Shotwell Road is kind of mitigated a little bit. And please save us from the exposure of all this noise pollution and the industrial commercial stuff that you are getting to dump in the middle of all of us. For a company that's getting ready to spend $150 million on something, the revenue is going to be $1 billion for 5 years. You can take some of that earth and trees and build a separation beautifully, as Art said, with some nice sawgrass, and please stave off the modernity that is going to be mildly obscene in my backyard. Thank you.
I'm Bill Williams. I live at 1015 Mulberry Road, Dogwood Forest. I want to share a little information on the noise pollution that he talked about. Noise pollution is identified as 65 decibels or louder. What in the world? A train coming through Clayton with no horn at close range is 85 decibels. Your fire truck coming through Clayton at close range is 110 decibels. Both of these can be heard at a great distance. We get into the vegetation removal. In the grading phase of this process, you will have multiple heavy equipment working. Noise level from this equipment will range from that train to that fire truck. Course distance will impact how loud it is. If you're 50 feet from the loudest equipment, it'll be 110 decibels. If you reduce it to 100 or expand it to 100 feet, then your noise level is reduced to that of a washing machine. It makes a tremendous difference. How long will this phase of vegetation removal and grading take place? Weeks, months. Then we go to the construction phase. Actual construction often exceeds that train noise that we talked about. Sometimes it's as loud as a fire truck. Paving is very loud, often like a fire truck. And how long will this phase last? 1 to 2 years. Once it's completed, studies show that the average noise level on a shopping center is something like a garbage disposal. But then comes the dumpsters, the garbage trucks, the delivery trucks, and they're as loud as a motorcycle. And then outside dining at some of these restaurants and bars, people get a little polluted. And the loud noise there can equal a big lawnmower. The noise from there is permanent. Now, I have information to back up what I've told you. I've got the information. What is the impact on people? The World Health Organization says there's hearing damage, health issues, psychological problems, and sleep disorders. And this organization already gives specifics on these things. There will be constant noise. That's the new normal. The impact on the people needs special consideration, in-depth evaluation. It's crucial.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Ferez, and I live in Dogwood Forest subdivision at 780 Lightfoot Drive. And if Highway 70 represents the front of this development, my property and my home represent the back of it. We're located in between the development and Little Creek. And one of my concerns that I want to talk about tonight is the stormwater management and the runoff from the 75-acre development that will be emptying into 2 large retention ponds that are directly adjacent and uphill from my property and especially my home. After multiple meetings with the developer's agents, we have yet to be told how any excess stormwater will be channeled from the property to lower lying areas, especially the property owned by my husband and me. While I understand the retention ponds are developed to collect and store enough rainwater for a 25-year flood, they are designed They are designed to avoid overflow. It is still very unnerving to live in that position. Living downhill from retention ponds that could overflow during heavy storms or hurricanes is not a comfortable feeling, especially not knowing how the stormwater will be managed. And especially seeing one of the developers' site maps that show the ponds being 15 to 25 times larger than my home. That's a lot of water. Of course, this management will affect us directly, but there is also the fact that any runoff from the property being developed will contribute to the possibility of Little Creek flooding, thus affecting everyone downstream. Therefore, I would like to request, as a condition of zoning variance, that all data and design regarding the stormwater runoff through retention ponds and the rest of the property be made public so we could all review them and you can make a determination as to whether it is safe. There have been many catastrophic flooding events recently in western North Carolina and Texas, and my fear is that by paving so much property that the natural ability of the land to absorb this amount of rainfall could be diminished, causing flooding to my home and property. Where my house is remains very vulnerable to that. So, council members, I ask of you and the developers to provide clear, definitive plans as to how this project will distribute and safely disperse any excess, unexpected stormwater and how it will impact our neighborhood, our community of Clayton, and my property. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joanna Larry. I live at 733 Lightfoot Drive, and I was wondering if any of you had the letter that our community sent you last Thursday. Did you all get a copy of that? That's good. Thank you. I'm happy that you did. That letter represents the community. There's 50 homes approximately in our community. 30 homes signed that letter. Trying to let you guys know a little bit about how we feel. Basically, in the letter, we were stating that we are hoping that there will be consideration given to the fact that, yes, we are not against this development, but that we want some, our request is that it would be conditioned to compliance with the conditions adopted by the Clayton Town Council on October 17th, 2006, with the full list of conditions at the bottom of the document. Those conditions were the existing 125-foot RLL zoning separation be retained. 100-foot shall be natural and undisturbed. The remaining 25 shall be in transition landscaping per the Town of Clayton standards. No access to and from the development via Lightfoot Drive. I do appreciate Casto telling us today that that was going to be for emergency use only. I greatly appreciate him letting us know that and coming to that compromise. No worker or construction parking, though, also on the access to and from Lightfoot Drive. A new traffic light installation we are asking to be staged with construction milestones, basically a turning lane to the project to be installed prior to any work being performed to minimize construction traffic impact on the current Clayton Boulevard traffic flow. The traffic is a major concern. Also, our way of life within this community is a major concern about traffic flowing into the community. Construction traffic. I have small children. They play outside all the time. They run up and down the roads. We have walkers, bikers, runners. We are a outdoor community. We bought the home of Curtis and Alice Jones. They were longtime business owners here in Jones Cafe, and she and I connected on the level of nature because she loved the nature that is in Dogwood Forest. What we're basically asking for the most part, I believe everyone responded 100% on this letter to you all, is that we want that 125-foot buffer to be maintained, natural buffer. The trees that are there. Water will be addressed that way much more easily. Traffic will be addressed that way. Light pollution, noise pollution, all of this for our community. We just beg you and the developer to please understand that. Again, we are not against this build. We know that it is of a great benefit to the town. It will be a benefit to our community as well. But we want to keep the the type of community, the character of a community alive there. Also for our own property's values to be maintained, because it is very unique. Like they said, so much nature. So please, if you consider that, I would be grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Outlaw, 724 Lightfoot Road in Clayton. On the site map, I am the resident that lives in that little corner that has the 200 feet on the west side, and then it cuts over towards your fire emergency gate. Well, that is me. This way, 200 feet this way. So I'm getting hit by the buffer twice. And that's the big deal, because we want you to know that Dogwood Forest is not against this project. We want it to go through. If it goes through, then with mixed use, then that means you have to reset the buffer to make it work. We as residents, we have nothing that we can do or say. It's all in your hands. Now, we have tried to get that 40-foot buffer with all the beautiful greenery that we've talked about, but we don't seem to get any help to maybe negotiate something that we can work with so this project can be finished and move on, because I know there's contracts and money involved in getting things done in a timely manner. And we want this thing to go through, and because it's good for Clayton, tax base, everything. We can spend our money in their business. But it has to be mutual. And all we're asking for, and the only thing we can really do, is ask, hope, pray, and have faith that y'all can help us get a buffer more than 40 feet. And as you can tell, sitting in here, this is Dogwood Forest. They're with us. They all don't live on Lightfoot Road. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good night. If you have any questions and you're willing to want to call me up for any further questions, I'm willing to ask them, as well as any other member in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name, and thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. My name is Nick Perez, and I live at 780 Lightfoot Drive in Dogwood Forest. For the record, I think the addition of this proposed development can be very beneficial for Clayton residents, offering goods and services that are both needed and wanted by the community. Growth is inevitable, and growth is good when done properly. That is why we're here tonight, and one of the factors of good growth is providing safety and security for both the development coming in and for the existing members of the community. To that point, I would like to begin my presentation. When our neighborhood first had the opportunity to meet with the Casto Group in February, we emphasized the fact that in order for us to feel safe and secure, we would like to have a physical barrier between their development and our subdivision. We talked about a fence, wall, or berm that would create a physical and opaque barrier, and it was agreed by the Casto Group that that could be a consideration. I emailed each council member today some information regarding the benefits of fences between commercial and residential subdivisions, and I don't know if you got it. I hope you did. As our discussions and negotiations continued with the Casto Group, they were amenable, per our request, to adding more evergreen plantings, as was stated tonight, to create more of a year-round barrier to the border between the properties and discourage cross-movement between developments. And definitely, we all appreciate that. I think that's a great addition by them. When we met with them on August 6th, Mr. Lowell emphasized the fact that they were concerned also about the entry of people from our subdivision onto their property as well. It appears as though, regarding the issue of safety and security, of both locations, we appear to be of the same mind. As the old saying goes, good fences or berms make good neighbors. Therefore, I request that this be a requirement of conditional variance to the zoning. At the same meeting, we requested that as much of the separation or buffer zone between our properties be left natural and undisturbed. And while I understand that cannot be done uniformly, it was agreed in an email from Mr. Lowell and stated by him tonight that the southern border of the property will be left that way with no disturbance of any existing vegetation and no additional plantings required for at least a 40-foot buffer from the property line, if not more. We appreciate that very much, and I would request that that also be made a requirement of conditional variance to zoning. It is my understanding that the retention ponds of the property must be fenced for safety and liability reasons. Given the fact that the retention ponds make up a large portion of the linear footage of the border between our subdivision and the property being developed, I request that the remaining linear border footage be filled in with either an 8-foot chain link fence or of heavy commercial grade or a 10-foot vegetated berm. Both would create a separation. The berm, however, would create visual as well as audible separation as well, and dirt spoils from the property itself could be used to create this, saving both time and money for the developer. This could save or solve a lot of concerns, problems, and objections that you're hearing this evening from the community. It appears as though a berm separating the properties really would be very beneficial and well received. At a very high estimation, if the cost of the fencing or in fact the berm was $40,000 to $50,000, it seems like it would represent much less than 1/10 of 1% of the complete investment by the developer into the project. This is a very small price to pay for the security for both properties, theirs and ours, and can you truly put a price on safety and security? This would be a way for the developer to secure their investment and for us to feel safe and secure in our homes. I appreciate your time and consideration. I appreciate the developer trying to work with us per our request, and I request that the above points be made as conditions to the zoning variance proposal, as they would benefit all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, esteemed council members, my name is Dan Shaw. I live at 728 Lightfoot Drive on Dogwood Forest. I've been a neighbor here since 2018. I chose this community for its stability and its quality of life. In 2006, the town council established a 125-foot separation between our neighborhood and any future commercial or multifamily expansion. That separation was a promise meant to protect property values, preserve neighborhood character, and shield long-standing residents from exactly what is now being proposed, encroachment of commercial property. Shrinking that separation of 40 feet not only disrupts the residential character of Dogwood Forest, it also risks devaluing the homes and investments of the families who have lived here for decades. We're simply asking you to maintain the full 125-foot separation as your predecessors intended. Along with that, we respectfully request several conditions if this project moves forward. Install a physical barrier along the adjoining property line to protect our neighborhood from security risks, debris, and unwanted access and noise. Ensure that any required connection to Lightfoot Drive is closed to both construction and public access and may be utilized for emergency services only. Enforce defined construction hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays, 8 a.m. to 6 on weekends, to protect residents' quality of life. I could hear them building that Mavis tire store at 11:30 at night. I listened to that all summer. And require that traffic improvements are paced with construction milestones in order to mitigate further traffic issues that will surely arise with the logistical needs of a project of this scale. In short, we're not opposed to growth. We're asking for responsible growth, growth that respects commitments made in 2006, that protects our homes, and that balances progress with the needs of our community, a community that includes some of your longest standing constituents. Mayor, council members, we're asking you to protect us now just as you did then. Please keep the 125-foot separation zoned as residential large lot, require fencing or a berm, construction safeguards, and ensure there is no public access into Dogwood Forest. With my last minute, I'd like to just give a personal anecdote. I'm relatively new to Clayton. I moved here in 2018. I grew up in Cary. I lived in North Raleigh until North Hills blew up. And I moved here for peace and quiet, serenity, quiet small town life. I've been accepted by this community. Bill never left. Art left and loved it so much he came back. And I chose to put roots down here. They have accepted me. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Mayor, they don't call you Mr. Mayor, they don't call you Mayor McLeod, everybody just calls you Jody. And it's not a term of disrespect, it's because I've known you your whole life. You've actually been a guest of my home many times. I bought Irene Reed's house. I understand you used to decorate for Christmas. Yes. I also understand that Irene was a pistol and she didn't mince words. I didn't know her, but you did. And I'm sure you can imagine what Irene would think of this 40 feet off her back door. I just asked you to protect us as you did then. By all respects, everyone's told me you're a good, responsible, and you're a good man. And I put I have faith in you because they've given me that faith. So this community means a lot to me, and I believe it means a lot to Clayton. And I just ask you guys to please respect that and find a way forward with us. Thank you very much for your time and your service.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak that would like to add something to the record that has not already been stated? If you are here tonight with the Dogwood Forest community, would you please stand? Thank you for standing. This allows the camera to pick up for those viewing and who aren't present with us here this evening to show that you took the time to come and express your opinions. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? No one else wishing to speak. I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to turn it over to council for discussion. I would like, before y'all discuss, just to say thank you so much for the level of professionalism and the sense of community that has been expressed here. The method by which you came to conduct your business does not go unnoticed. Thank you. Who's up?
I do have a couple more questions. Maybe this is to the developer or town staff. I know some of the things that were brought up by the citizens in the community. First off, maybe this is a staff question. Need all the help I can get answering these, but regarding the stormwater design plans, and my understanding is those are typically public. Is that correct? They just haven't got to the point where they're at that stage.
Yes, so once they submit site plan and construction drawings, those would be public record and available for any public record requests.
Okay, so how would they go? But just they would contact the
town clerk's office. You can submit a public records request, and then the materials will be gathered and sent to the person requesting.
Okay, thank you. And then regarding basically stormwater plans and designs, how are they vetted? I know there's state and I guess our UDO requirements.
Yes, so they are reviewed by the technical review committee. So the engineering department will review the stormwater engineer for the town in accordance with the town stormwater ordinance and also the state requirements to ensure compliance.
Okay, thank you. Another question I had, and I think this would be to the applicant. Can you speak in regards to the construction entrance and where you foresee that being, or have you got to that point yet? Do you have an idea where that's going to be located? Any type of road improvements that are going to be made prior to initial construction? I know you've got land clearing and stuff like that has to happen as well, but.
We don't have all the design plans yet. We don't have, plans submitted for permit through DOT yet, but we're in the process of trying to get to those. The construction access, certainly, our first choices are off 70 or Clayton Boulevard, possibly at our access A, kind of, near where that relocated ABC store is proposed, or potentially through town center, extension somewhere through there. And it may be changed as we evaluate the process of construction and where do we where would the best location be? But it certainly is not going to come through Dogwood Forest. That absolutely is not.
I mean, I wouldn't think it would, but you'd be willing to put that in the form of a condition?
Well, I think, yeah, we are. I mean, that's fine as a condition if you want it. No construction access,
you know,
make it number 30, we're fine with that.
I know I mean, there's a few things that they're bringing up, but if it gives them peace of mind being in a condition, then I think that would be, I think that'd be appreciated.
Yep.
The other thing, I don't, well, I have to ask this question before I ask the other one. I'm a little perplexed by this 125-foot buffer. I don't know if that's something that the town attorney, all right, thank you, sir. You had your hand up, so.
I think I can speak to that. I looked back through the October 17, 2006 minutes, and what I gleaned from that is that it was not a buffer in the sense of the property was obligated to remain as a buffer. It was a separation. And I've heard it referred to as both a separation and a buffer tonight. But it was not, there were no obligations put on that property. I think what happened, if you've been in the planning business since then or around that time, you may remember something called a protest petition. There used to be a right, statutory right among adjoining owners to create a supermajority vote requirement by a local government. If you were within 100 feet of the property, you could petition, and that would obligate the governing board to have a 4/5 vote in order to pass the rezoning. So what it looks like to me from the minutes is that the applicant at the time amended their rezoning application. They started at 100, and then they went to 125. The purpose of that being to eliminate the protest petition rights of the adjoining property owners. And it was curious to me that the vote to pass the rezoning was 3-1. So it sort of looks like there wasn't a supermajority in favor of the rezoning at that time. And there were some references in the minutes that I thought were sort of revealing. The town manager at the time specifically said he would caution using the word buffer in this context. He stated what is being discussed is separation. What is being defined is a boundary for a new district. So what the applicant did was back off of the property line far enough to eliminate the protest rights and thereby only have to get a majority vote to approve his application. The manager went on to say, at this point, if approved for rezoning, that does not preclude the possibility of development or cutting within the 125 feet. He further stated, it's an important distinction when discussing a rezoning district boundary and a buffer. So in my read of it, because of this statutory right to protest and to create an obligation for a supermajority vote to approve a rezoning, the applicant amended the request. The amendment was approved by the council. Mayor, you pointed out, Mayor McLeod stated the council cannot state that this will be left undisturbed as this is a zoning hearing. It did not, again, create obligations to buffer, to use that property as a buffer. That was the practical effect of it, but it didn't create a legal obligation. Does that make sense or muddy it further?
It makes more sense, but, I'm still confused, to be honest with you, but I appreciate now, from a standpoint of this 125 buffer, or whatever it is, or what was done in the past and they're asking for right now. I mean, just understanding some of the challenges that we face as a municipality with laws and regulations, and everything. I mean, it seems like it could potentially be could it be potentially even a liability on our part to require or expect something like this? Is that safe to say, or is that too broad?
I'm not sure I followed.
I don't know. It just seems like, a buffer of that size. I mean, it seems like it infringes on the property rights of the property owner, if that was to be.
Yeah, that's accurate. I would agree with that.
Okay. All right. So I had that. The applicant, one of the questions is asking about a berm. I mean, berms versus, a 40-foot buffer with vegetation. I don't know, and I'm not familiar with the elevations of a berm versus, treed, some sort of vegetation buffer. Is there, from a development standpoint, I've experienced some people in the community where they actually had a buffer and they wish they didn't because it created additional challenges. But is there something I'm not knowledgeable on that. Is there anything that you feel comfortable speaking about or discussing regarding that? I feel bad you got that leg and you have to make you get up and.
Sorry, it helps me exercise it a little bit.
Yeah, I understand.
The creation of a berm requires grading, right? So you got to fill in that zone and so on, which means you have to disturb it. So if you want to try to leave things natural, a berm's not going to help that. It's going to cause us to have to go in and, remove the vegetation, build a berm, where it's appropriate. And I think, the engineer could probably speak to there are some elevation challenges. And that's why I said in the presentation that we're looking at trying to keep natural vegetation even to the point where we would have to build a retaining wall on our property, which leaves their property lower. So the retaining wall kind of creates another buffer along with the plantings. But I think Tucker can answer that maybe better than I.
Yeah, I think Tucker McKenzie with Withers Ravenel. So I think Tom kind of hinted to it as well. Like a berm sounds great on relatively flat property where you can kind of get a relatively uniform look on that. Whenever land falls away or there's big differences in topography, it's really hard to create a kind of consistent, uniform look on what that berm may be, and actually may be even more detrimental from a stormwater perspective as well, as it's channelizing stormwaters in different locations in different ways. So leaving that in a more natural state is the better engineering practice.
Thank you. And that was actually one of the challenges that other community had. It was a legacy community, and there was a development being put beside it, and the legacy homeowner was experiencing some challenges with stormwater and everything else because of the berm. But anyway, no, thank you for that. I don't have any more questions right now. I may have some or conversation or whatever we're in right now. I guess deliberation.
So firstly, I want to appreciate everyone who came up and spoke this evening. Really, I've been in here 4 years in this position now, and to hear citizens actually come up and talk about what this provides from a tax perspective was really good to hear, because the realities of Clayton, whether it be the roads to the buildings that we have to redo, to recreation, transformers, those things cost money. And I think sometimes people don't understand, especially till you sit up here, as far as looking at those particular numbers. With that being said, the buffer thing has me a little perplexed, in the sense of I have a better understanding. I appreciate that, Jim. But the developer here, and you stood up and you said that, hey, I'm from here and I'm all about the community and the people. I agree with you there, buddy. That's why I don't see why we can't work out something between that 40 and that 125. I don't know if you guys, if you can't make that call now, if you can hop up there and you can say, yep, we can do maybe blank, 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 or is that something maybe you might need to come back? Well, but hearing everyone say, for the most part, that they are for this should be like, I mean, again, I've been sitting here for a little while. Most of the time, that ain't the case. probably 90% of the time. So it seems like you might be able to want to work out something. Again, if you can't do it now, then I don't know, maybe we put it off. You have to go back and powwow, or you guys can powwow, off to the side or whatever. But I would be really appreciative if we could work out something between that 125 and that 40 there.
So I just, for clarification on the record, the Unified Development Code requires a 10-foot buffer. Is that correct?
From the existing RLL? Is that what you're asking? The existing zoning is RLL, and against the neighborhood, it would require a 10-foot buffer right now if that portion were developed. If they rezone, it would require a 40-foot buffer.
Okay. And from a legal perspective, Jim, in the state of North Carolina, is one council bound by another council's decision?
Generally, the answer to that is no, but this was not a council decision that even bound that council, because all it did was take property out of a rezoning application. It did not create any affirmative buffer obligation.
Okay. Thank you. I needed that clarification. Anyone else? Mr. Sims.
Did the applicant, did you want to say anything based upon what I said? So that's a no. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, I was born and raised here. I remember when the Walmart wasn't a Walmart. It was a golf course, and I went and played there one time. And I think after that one time I played there, the guy drove up to us, me and another gentleman that was born and raised here, and said, I'll pay you, give your money back if you come in and play golf when there's not a busy time. And because we were hacking on the golf course. But anyway, I mean, I think one of the challenges with this situation is we're a growing community. We're cursed and we're blessed by where we're located. We're very close to Raleigh. We're very close to the airport. Every municipality around us is growing. Whether, I was born and raised here, and I like the old Clayton. I'm having to accept and adopt the new Clayton. With respect to, projects like this, this is something that when I initially was on council, people, said, we need more retail. We need more retail. We're tired of the houses. We're tired of the multifamily. Only projects, we need more retail. And so, I'm excited about this, excited about the potential opportunities. I understand that there's a legacy community there that, is concerned, and I hear that voice. I know I recognize a lot of the faces over there. And so, this is definitely a tough decision. And that's one thing as council, we have to make these tough decisions. But, for me, I would hope that there would be some sort of common ground or additional common ground if this project were to get approved tonight or tabled, or some additional considerations that would continue to go. Because at the end of the day, you have a property owner who is intending on developing that site one way or the other, right? We can't prevent it from happening, unless we all want to the town of Clayton ended up in court and us costing the taxpayers more than, they want to have to deal with. But, for me, I'm torn. I do feel like this is a good project. I do feel like this is not going to be a White Oak. This is not going to be another retail development that's not going to be above board. I think this is going to be something that's going to be ultimately good for the community. I do think that there needs to be some consideration in certain areas where, a buffer, versus a berm versus a fence versus any type of other redesign, whether that means that has to be decided tonight or, you're still in kind of your concept design plan, right? So there's going to be some additional changes and additional modifications. I I'll just kind of be quiet for a minute and I'll let somebody else on council say something.
I'm good. I just can't believe that you guys won't. See, this is why, this kills me. This is why developers and builders get you such a bad rap. You guys can't say, hey, you know what, fool me, 5 feet, 10 feet, something.
Good evening. I'd like to speak at this moment. First of all, I want to thank the residents and also the applicant for just coming together and being able to let your voice be heard and speak about what your concerns are. I just want to say thank you for coming together. I understand that you had your second meeting, and I say that speaks volumes of what you can do, what you can say. I do have a question for the staff. I know it's been over and over again. We talked about the buffer, and sounds like from the last meeting that you all had, so many things have been accomplished. We talked about the noise, we talked about the traffic, wetlands, and all of these things. And I just want to know more about, if you could speak to us, understanding that we are allowing, the developer allowing for 40-foot buffer. And it said before that it was 10 feet was all that was required, correct? And so that they were requesting from the residents, asking for the 150, 120. I want to hear about legally what has been said already. I understand that the 40 feet, it says to be already above and beyond the code requirement, but can you speak to that so that we all can hear for the record of that process?
So I believe the 10-foot is referencing the existing zoning, which is RLL technically along that perimeter, given that 125 strip. RLL against RLL, if that were developed, would require a 10-foot buffer. With this rezoning, the applicant is required the type D 40-foot buffer that they are proposing.
And with that being said, we hear that there's a big difference, and it's been stated that the 40-foot is already above and beyond. I know that's not what you're asking for, but I just want it to be on the record and it's stated for facts, okay? Thank you.
I just echo some of the sentiments that the other council members have expressed. I see friends out here in the audience that I've known for a long time, and this is a hard decision to make. I will say that in my experience up here and developers who have come and gone, our experience with the Casto folks have been that they have been open, honest, willing to listen, because what a lot of people don't see and hear are the meetings that we have with our developers to talk about what they're bringing to the table. And we brought a lot to the table when we were talking to the developers and the plans for this. And this developer's been more than willing to hear what the community says, hear what the council has said. And I just feel like this property is going to be developed, and we don't know what is going to happen in the future with developments. And there may be a developer who comes in that is not as willing to listen and is not as willing to bring to the community some of the things that this developer's brought. And that's sometimes what we have to weigh in a difficult decision, I would say. It is going to bring a lot to this community. I think it will bring a lot of positive to the neighborhood. I think there's going to be some give and take on both sides. And I feel like even if it's approved tonight, I think that's not going to mean that the Casto company is not going to walk away and go, okay, we got what we needed. We're not listening anymore. If that were to happen, I would be very disappointed. And it has certainly not been our experience. And the developer may or may not want to speak to that. But I have to believe that if there's a concern that arises that needs to be addressed that maybe has not been foreseen, that this developer would be open to listen to what that is and try to find a solution to that. I get the 125 feet. That's got to be very disappointing to hear the explanation that we've been told and understand this to be. I'm not going to say anything more about that. It's just, it just is what it is, not maybe what it was understood to be. And I know that's got to be frustrating. I feel like this has a lot of positives, got some negatives because it's development. Things are going to be cut down. Things are going to shift. But I think there are, in my opinion, when I weigh it out for the positives and the negatives, the positives are, there's a longer column for the positives than there are for the negatives to me.
Mr. Case.
Actually, I have I don't know if this needs to be in the form of a condition or the applicant would be even amenable to doing this, but with respect to the neighboring community, would the applicant be willing to have some sort of form of communication, whether it be a newsletter or some sort of periodic check-in with them, just to say, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we foresee it being 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So things in the development world constantly change. There's delays, there's accelerations and everything else. But is there a way that y'all can, I don't know if you've done this before. Hell, I don't even know if it's something that even has been tried before anywhere, but communicating with with the neighborhood saying, hey, this is what's happening, and it be, something that you could even conditionalize, saying we'll have this check-in periodically. So there's feedback, there's more dialogue. So it's not, this is approved or deny, and they're, twiddling their thumbs, worried that, a truck's going to roll up tomorrow and start cutting the trees down or whatever else. Sorry, I'll just be quiet and let y'all talk. And sorry you have to get back up again. I think the battery may have died.
There we go.
All right. We're certainly willing to continue the dialogue and have discussions or go further into the process and design. As you said, things change, things evolve. Design's going to get to the place where we then start to be able to lock things in, or we get agreements to be able to lock things in, and we're certainly willing to have those kinds of discussions. I think probably the best thing at this point, I would suggest, and certainly willing to do this, is before any construction happens, is give the residents a notice or some kind of information that tells them anticipated start time, activities and things, so they have some level of expectation of what's going to be going on. May not be our full detailed construction schedule, but some broad brush strokes to give them some ideas of expectations.
Right, and you're willing to do that, and how periodic would that be something that you could foresee doing?
That's to be determined. I don't know that I would want to condition a time frame on that.
Understood.
Because there may be times that it's not necessary. There are times that it is necessary, and I think we're willing to be cognizant and aware that there are certainly concerns of the residents, and most specifically those who are immediately adjacent to it. I think we have tried to accommodate those as best we can by relocating stormwater pond, creating and committing to leaving areas natural. But as with anything, there are some constraints. There are some places where you just can't give more because it's just not there. So I think that's kind of where we've gotten to, but we're certainly willing to continue to have that dialogue and to provide information as the project goes forward.
And I'm going to ask this question, and I'm sure there's some sort of methodology and such, but a lot of times we get good development and we get bad development. There's some people that are neighbors and say, hey, the developer's done a phenomenal job, and I expect that of y'all, of course, but there's some situations where there's a lot of consternation and challenges with the development next door. So is there a number, or how would they be able to reach out to, say this project gets approved tonight?
They have my number. They have my email address. They have my cell phone number, and they have my email address.
Okay, so they could call you.
And they have.
Okay.
So that's that communication dialogue will remain open.
To be a public official and putting your cell phone number out there, that's pretty brave, I must admit. So I appreciate you doing that. But so that would be, they would need to reach out to you, and if there's any concerns or
if they have specific concerns, they're certainly welcome to reach out to us. Does it mean we're going to do community meetings every month? No.
Understood.
I'm not going to do that. That's just not. But does it mean that as we get to certain points in the project, we can give out some information that gives some level of expectation that, construction is going to start, clearing might be here, and then, some other broad brush parameters? Yeah, that's certainly fine.
And so we can conditionalize, you'll keep your cell phone number the same for the next,
Oh my God, order, let's roll.
I will say it has not changed in 17 years. I don't plan on changing it now, but yeah.
Okay. I'm sure we have a way to get in touch if you change your cell phone number.
As a condition, if you put yours out there too, I'll do it.
Mine's already out there, man. It's already out there. It's probably on some bathroom walls with bad things said beside it.
Well,
too,
I'm afraid mine
unfortunately.
might be there too after.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you. I appreciate that.
I've been quiet, but I just want to say that it's pretty obvious that this neighborhood's very special, right? Because I've ridden my bicycle down Mulberry. I've played in the woods. I smoked cigarettes in the woods. Mary Lee Phillips said, "Jody, have you been smoking?" I'm like, "No, ma'am, but we did burn some leaves out there." And it's a wonderful neighborhood of good people who have been good to Clayton. And it's my hope. And really, I feel very confident that Casto is going to do an amazing job with this project and that they are going to be a good neighbor. Really quick. Only because you're a former town manager. You got to hit that button, turn the green light on.
I want to assure the council, the subdivision is not against this project. We want the project. We want it for Clayton. We just want Dogwood protected. That's all we're asking.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anybody to get the impression that we're not against it. We are 100% behind it. We just want to make sure Dogwood is protected.
Sure. And I think that's been clearly communicated and stated on the record. So that's great. All right. Turn it over to council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve public hearing or zoning, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, 2025-10-CZM based on the conversations. Oh, all right. Here, let me just take this. Sorry. And I think that I did have there was one condition that I asked for. Is a double silt fence? Is that one of them? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Heavner conditional rezoning 2025-23-CZM. Sorry, I'm not good at this. With the statement of consistency, with the 2045 comprehensive growth plan, and that's my motion, but I stand by what, I think Jody and the rest of the councilmen up here, we have high expectations, and I, Daniel, will give you your cell phone a call if it's not met. So that's not part of my motion. I apologize, but I just want to throw that in there. Oh.
Excuse me, if I may, for the record, the condition that was going to be added was that there are no construction access through Dogwood Forest and Lightfoot Drive, through the entire neighborhood. It's fine.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So add the double silt fence, correct? And no construction entrance through. Oh, silt fence already in there. Okay, yeah, my bad. Thank you. Sorry. I just wanted to keep you active. All right.
Good to stay moving.
Yeah. We're an active community, right? That's one of our slogans. Anyway, so that's my motion. I'm not going to say it again because I'll mess it up.
Second.
Just for clarification, Mr. Attorney, do we have this motion and second as it needs to be stated on the record?
Does a planning staff have the text of the motion? I mean, the text of the additional condition? Got it.
Yes, so we have the condition number 37 from the applicant that I shared in the PowerPoint presentation. We already have it in the condition sheet.
Perfect. So we have a motion and a second. Is there?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Haley, one more time. That condition limits it to emergency access only, so by default, construction access is not allowed.
Yes, by default.
So just want to make sure that's clear.
And if you'd like, I can read you the language again if necessary.
I don't think that's necessary. As long as it's clearly documented in the record, I'm good.
Yeah, as long as that reflects the councilman's intent.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. You're welcome. All right, I'd like to call our meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is the 2025 street closure, Shotwell Apartments, Mechanical Drive.
Good evening, everyone. Town Council, members, Mayor. My name is Audrey, and I'm one of the senior planner here for the town of Clayton. Tonight I will be presenting the street closure Shotwell Apartments project number 2025-56- street closure. So this is a request to close permanently 0.10 acres of Mechanical Drive, which is a town-owned and maintained street. The impacted properties are, there are two properties, which they are currently vacant. And the location of this is next to the intersection of Cameron Way and Shotwell Road. So this is a recombination plat in review right now by the department. So once this one is recorded, this will officialize the right-of-way abandonment. There's also a site plan of the project that was approved last month with conditions, and one of the conditions is the approval of the removal of the cul-de-sac. And that site plan was also reviewed by TRC, which implies more departments in planning. So engineering, but also fire department was also on the TRC. A little bit of background, since this street closure is associated to a project. This project was approved under conditional rezoning, CZR, last year. It was approved for a multifamily project of 90 units. And in the conditions of approval, condition number 37, it was associated with road improvement, and one of the road improvement was the removal of the cul-de-sac. You also have a snippet here of the concept plan that was approved in 2024. But these alone cannot formally be the approval for the street closure, as the procedure is really strictly outlined in General Statute 160A-299. So for your consideration tonight, there are two criteria for a proposed street closure application that the town council may weigh. One is the closing of the street is in the best interest of the public. And two, a landowner in the vicinity of the street would not be deprived of reasonable ingress or egress to their land. Town council shall make the final decision on this one. The planning board recommend approval unanimously and consider the addition of a no outlet sign as it is in your attachment number 8 of your package. So as a note, there is no consistency statement sheet, as this type of application only has two potential actions, which is approval or denial. And staff recommendation is approval. May you have any question for staff? We are here to answer, and also the applicant is here tonight in the room with us.
All right. Any questions for staff? Mr. Casey.
I just have one. So you're asking to close the road, but we're not giving up any land for the road, are we? Or is it just closing it?
If I can go back. So closing it will give some of the, we'll give 0.10 acres to their property. And that will, it was because of the consideration with the project that will help to add the driveway length, also as the parking spaces of the project, as you can see here.
But so we're going to close the road, and is there any reimbursement or compensation for the part of the road that we're giving to them?
Since this is a right-of-way abandonment, there's no transaction associated to this, so there's no fee associated to the
Okay.
abandonment.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you. Hearing none, I'll now open the floor. I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. Okay, no one wishing to speak. We'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the council for discussion. Mr. Sims.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we adopt ordinance 2025-08-05.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the adoption of ordinance 2025-08-05. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. And motion carries. Thank you. Up next is the sale of multifamily housing revenue bond series 2025 for Shotwell Apartments.
Hey, Mayor, members of council, tonight we are asking council to approve two resolutions. The first being the resolution to issue and sell multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Shotwell Apartments project, an amount not to exceed $14,500,000. The second resolution is a resolution to approve the financing team, which is listed at the bottom on page 1 of that resolution, 2025-80, in conjunction with making certain findings related to the issuance of this sale that's required by the North Carolina Local Government Commission. Council approved an inducement resolution back on May 6 of 2024, which gave conditional approval. With the approval of the closure of the street and the right-of-way abandonment, that's the last hurdle that the developer needed to move forward with issuing these revenue bonds. So I'd like to stress that town is only acting as a conduit debt issuer. We have no obligation to repay these bonds. Repayment is solely coming from revenues or other funds that are being provided by the developer, the borrower, which is the Shotwell Apartments Limited Partnership. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. We also have Kristen Kirby from McGuire Woods, who's our bond counsel, is available to take questions as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff or bond counsel? All right, thank you, Robert. This has been noted as a public hearing. I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. No one wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that we adopt resolution number 2025-79 and 2025-80.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the adoption of resolutions 2025-79 and resolution 2025-80. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and motion carries. Thank you. Up next is the 2024-77 ANX Cool & Company Annexation Public Hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. Robert Tate is Senior Planner in the Planning Department. Before you tonight is Annexation Petition 2024-77 at 3733 Powhatan Road. This is a non-contiguous annexation petition of about 5.23 acres of land within the town's ETJ to receive services. Looking at this aerial image shows you the site kind of situated right between the NCR, the railroad, and Powhatan Road. Here is a quick map just showing adjacent properties currently within the town's limits, showing just right across Powhatan Road. Here is the existing zoning. I will note that shortly right after my presentation and the next public hearing, you'll hear from the rezoning request for this specific site. So this HID current zoning will be discussed next. And just taking a look at the future land use map, it's under Employment Center. And that is all I have for you today. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none. This has been noted as a public hearing, and I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. No one wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their discussion.
Make a motion of adoption of ordinance 2025-08-01.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of ordinance 2025-08-01. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is 2024-140 CZM Fluorofusion conditional rezoning.
Hello again, town council members, mayor. So I will repeat some of the information that Robert Tate just provided you, since this is the same property. So this is a project number 2024-140-CZM. The request is to rezone the parcel from HID to CZI. The property is about 4 acres and it's located on Powhatan Road between the Clayton Boulevard and NCRR Railroad. As right now, as we're speaking, this lot is vacant. This is just to showing you that the property will be, this is a rezoning type 3 with concept plan to rezone from HID to CZI, conditional rezoning industrial. A little bit of background on this property is there was an approved conventional rezoning last year. The approval applied only to the zoning district since it was a conventional rezoning. So it went from RLL, which is residential large lot, to HID, heavy industrial. There were no site plan or project approval granted at that time. So no vested right plans was also submitted or approved. It was seen by staff that the tower was exceeding the permitted height in the HID district under the UDO, and this is why we're here today. There's also an annexation request in process that we just saw the presentation. Here we see the concept plan. So this concept plan identified 2 phases, which would be a unified development project later on. There's right-of-way dedication in accordance with the town policies. The requested deviation is the distillation tower that goes to 100 foot of height. And the proposed use is a heavy manufacturing, which is already permitted in the HID district. There's also enhancements that was proposed because there was a deviation of the height, which would, the requirement is a type C, and then the enhancement proposed by the applicant is a type D. As you can see on the future land use map, the area is designated as employment center, so staff observed that it is consistent with the current future land use. Some highlights of the conditions of approval is condition number 8 that states that the distillation tower height will be increased to 100 feet in regards to the current permitted height, which is 60 feet in the zone. For this, then condition number 9 comes into play to upgrade the perimeter landscaping buffer from a type C to a type D. Some consideration and recommendation tonight, should the rezoning be approved, the concept plan and the associated condition will be tied to the land in accordance with NC statute, and we shall make the final decision tonight. Planning board recommendation was 5 against 1. That recommends approval with condition and consistent with the comprehensive growth plan. Planning board also encouraged applicant to maintain dialogue with the adjacent property owners regarding the AM tower, which is your attachment number 8, which is a certificate to attest that the future distillation tower will not interfere with the AM tower signals. The staff recommendation is approval with condition consistent with the 2045 comprehensive growth plan. That constitute motion number 1 of your consistency statement sheet. Again, may you have any question for staff? We're here. Also, the applicants and the engineer are here tonight to answer any of your questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, thank you. Hearing none, this has been listed as a public hearing. I'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this, please step forward and state your name for the record. No one wishing to speak, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for their discussion. Mr. Casey.
So I do believe the applicant's here tonight, so I want to find out what was decided or what additional conversations after the planning board meeting. The planning board meeting, that was probably one of the most convoluted, challenging fiascos that it seems like I was very confused by. It sounds like seems so simple, but it seemed pretty complicated. I don't know. So can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. Yeah, there was a concern by the AM radio station, Truth Broadcasting. And the concern was that our tower that we were building was going to interfere with their AM signal. So we contracted an engineer, and we had them do a study on our tower and their tower. And from that study, they found that we should not have any interference with their tower at all. So they provided a certificate. Was the certificate in the packet? Yeah, so they provided us with a certificate stating that there should be no interference with the AM tower. And I do believe that Truth Broadcasting did write a letter stating that they had removed their objection for our tower.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that it all worked out.
Yeah,
that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any others?
I can make the motion.
Thank you.
Somebody's got to help me. I need somebody to hold my hand on this. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve Floor Fusion conditional rezoning 2024-140 CZM and the motion of consistency statements as well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next under old business is the capital project budget ordinances.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, we're asking council to adopt two capital project budget ordinances. The first one is the Main Street pedestrian improvements projects. That will cover pedestrian improvements between Robertson Street and Smith. Projected cost is 4.1 million with a grant coming from the LAP project. 2.2 million with the difference of 1.9 being funded by the general fund. This project is in the CIP. The second capital project budget ordinance is the NCDEQ wastewater system improvements. That covers making some major wastewater system improvements that's partially funded by NCDEQ. The town received a grant of approximately a little over $14 million from NCDEQ to undertake improvements including the Walmart pump station, Forest Hills pump station, the Walnut Creek Pump Station, as well as the West Clayton Regional Sewer and Cornwallis Sewer. The total cost of these projects is projected right now to be about $41.6 million, with 14 coming from the grant. The difference of $27.5 million will be in the form of most likely revenue bonds issued by the water sewer system. Again, these projects are all in the town CIP, so there's nothing new being presented here.
All right, thank you, Robert. Any questions for staff? Mr. Casey?
I do have a question. This might be for the town manager regarding the lap funded project. Where are we at with the percentage of design concept, and can we elaborate a little bit? I know we had some feedback initially on that.
Yeah, so a couple months ago, you guys had a work session. You saw some of the concepts provided by Kinley Horn for the different treatments at the intersections along Main Street. To date, the survey work, the field work has been completed in order for them to then advance that design to approximately, I think they're going to go to about a 65% design. I do know they're still waiting on that survey work to be post-processed so they can begin that work. But in the meantime, they have scheduled for some public stakeholder meetings, I believe in September, as well as they intend to have a booth at the Harvest Festival in October to be able to interact with the public and show them more of what are the proposed treatments along the corridor. So right now, that's the best information I can give you, and I'm going to let our newly minted engineering director have the night off here, because after a week on the job, I don't know that he's fully up to speed on these as well. But I do believe the stakeholder group is in September, and then again, a booth will be at the Harvest Festival in October to provide additional public input.
Okay, thank you. So stakeholder group and everything's going to be, okay, all right.
Anyone else? Mr. Sims?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2025-08-07 and 2025-08-08.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of ordinances 2025-08-07 and ordinance 2025-08-08. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next under new business is the amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 96, Solid Waste Management, Sections 96.02 and 96.04.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. My name is John Weckesser. I'm the Senior Zoning and Code Enforcement Officer for the Town of Clayton, and I will be presenting the potential adoption of ordinances 2025-0809 and 2025-0810 as it pertains to solid waste. Staff is seeking to get approval for the adoption of these two ordinances after holding a meeting with representatives of the town's waste management contractor, All Star Waste Services. Staff concluded that Code of Ordinance text amendments are essential to correctly reflect the updates needed to adhere to All Star Waste Management standards. These amendments will align town ordinances with our waste management contractor's current standards. For the first part, in Chapter 9602, current standards in the code state that recycling collection is every other week. Current practice is weekly collection, not every other week. This was confirmed in a meeting with All-Star staff and town staff earlier this year. And in Chapter 9604, there are a couple of changes to the code that we're looking to update. First, we're looking to get rid of bags as loose leaf containers. The landfill that All-Star uses does not accept those bags. So All-Star has been phasing out the use of those in the other municipalities that they do serve, aside from Clayton. In lieu of that, reusable plastic containers are acceptable to use as loose leaf containers. just so long as they are clearly labeled yard waste and are no larger than a 32-gallon capacity, which is a reduction from the current 50-gallon capacity that is written in the code right now. If the customer chooses to, they also have the option to purchase a rollout container directly from All-Star. I believe currently the price for that rollout container is $85. I think that is subject to change as well. And it is the same, I want to say 92 gallon is what the capacity is for those rollouts, but it's the same rollouts as the tan recycling and the green yard waste, or just the green garbage rollouts that we currently use. Staff is recommending approval of these ordinance amendments to reflect current standards in the town to align with All-Stars standards. Are there any questions?
Mr. Casey.
Sorry, I feel like I'm asking questions on every single thing tonight.
Sure.
I have probably the biggest magnolia tree in the state in my yard. And it sheds leaves constantly, not just during the fall. Plastic bags, everything else is always something constant for me getting these leaves up. So what we do is we have reusable bags. And so it sounds like you're telling me, and I appreciate your presentation tonight, that reusable bags are acceptable. And then also the big plastic bins that you can purchase are acceptable.
It's my understanding after having a meeting with the representatives from All-Star that as long as the containers are clearly delineated as yard waste, so that whenever they do the yard waste and garbage collection, that they don't take that and throw that in the dumpster as well. That as long as it is clearly delineated as yard waste, that they will not take it and remove it. We did not speak about bags versus plastic totes per se. Whenever we did have that discussion, we did not discuss reusable bags. We did discuss using reusable plastic tote boxes, big metal containers, things of that nature, just so long as that they were clearly labeled yard waste.
Okay, this is good for me. I have the yard waste bin, but I fill that up, so I have to resort to additional bags. I think, okay, that's good. I think that answers my question. They use them now. I mean, they dump them and they leave them, of course. Every now and then I think, one walks away, but appreciate that. I think that's something that we also need to include in our newsletter that goes in our utility mailer. So that is informed to the community, because I see a lot of bags that sometimes are not clear, and I've seen a lot of clear ones too, but thank you.
Yeah. And whenever staff did have that discussion with All-Star, we have also been in communication with the communications department regarding different ways that we can reach out to the town, whether that be bill backers, flyers, mailers, things of that nature, to inform the public that we will be phasing out the plastic bags and switching over to reusable totes. And then after having conversations with All-Star as well, they did say that they will collect those plastic bags up until the beginning of loose leaf season, to where I think that's in the beginning of October, when you can just put the loose leaf out by the curb and gutter and they'll just use the vacuum to vacuum that up. So they will collect the bags up until that point. But after loose leaf season is over in January, they're looking to have the plastic bags completely phased out by then.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. One of the challenges with plastic bags, you put leaves in them, they don't pick them up that week. It rains, they get heavy, and the next thing you know, it's too heavy for them to lift and load into the bin, and then a homeowner has a conundrum trying to figure out what to do with it. So appreciate that.
Yeah, and I do think that that was also something that they were trying to solve, reducing the size from 50 gallon down to 32 gallon. As far as the yard waste buckets.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
So can we go back one slide?
Sure.
Container? Yeah. So they're proposing to reduce the container size of the yard waste containers?
If the citizen provides their own. If it is, and I'll just shoot forward 2 slides. The rollout on the right is the same size as the other ones. That is if you do choose to purchase the one-time purchase.
So if we already have that container, we're good. We don't.
Correct. Yes. If you choose that, that is an optional choice. You don't have to do it. But if you buy your own, just no larger than 32 gallons.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilwoman Ruth. Sorry, I have another question. So if you have multiple of them, I have multiple reusable.
Yeah.
Hey, go to my house and look at that tree in my yard. It's massive. And I've seen my neighbors have this too, because we have a lot of old trees that produce a lot of leaves. So you have multiple of these. You can't have one I provide that's over that size. But I mean, it still needs to meet 6 bags or whatever bags, certain length, certain width, whatever, and it fits in that mold or that, imaginary space.
Yeah, so the yard waste containers, they're mostly directed towards loose leaf, twigs, grass clippings, things of that nature. All-Star still does take the limb piles, as long as they're cut into that 6x6x3 pile, as what they've been doing for the last handful of years. They will still collect that. This is geared more towards all the loose leaf collection in the clear plastic bags. So they will pick up all of the twigs, the sticks and everything that you have in a 6x6x3 pile. And they'll also pick up the loose leaf pile, so long as that, now it's in a new container and not plastic bags.
Okay. Well, I'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Wishes of the council. Mr. Sims.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we adopt ordinances number 2025-08, -09 and 2025-08, 1-0.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the adoption of ordinances 2025-08, -09 and 2025-08, -10. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is resolution number 2025-71 to amend resolution number 2022-10, granting wastewater treatment capacity 2021-90 CZM Ramblewood Village.
Good evening, Courtney Tanner. I'm a much shorter version of Michael Warner. But I'm going to give you a quick update on the item. Not going to get too into the details since it's later in the evening and read the actual item to you. But Lee Lambert is here this evening. He is the applicant. He wanted to provide an update, but I was going to provide a quick overview prior to that. That the request for the wastewater allocation is related to a rezoning request where there was a total of 154 units approved, 96 single-family detached, 58 attached. Typically, we receive an allocation request when it's further along in the process, when they're right about the time of approval or post-approval of a subdivision or a site plan. So this is earlier in the process. There is nothing to prohibit anybody from submitting it earlier in the process. I'm going to be clear on that, but it's unusual that we receive a request this early in the process because the allocation lasts for a year and it will most likely expire before any building permits would even be approved or issued. So unfortunately, the allocation would most likely expire. That's why we typically don't see it that long. So staff's recommendation is actually not to approve the request. That is not to say that the board cannot approve the request. You do have the ability to do so. So since you can also grant extensions down the road for this. But I wanted to say that Mr. Lambert is here this evening. He wanted to present something. So before you take any action, I wanted to give him an opportunity to present, which I know is not typically normal as part of new business, but I wanted to give him that opportunity. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Lambert.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much. Thank you, Courtney. Courtney, staff has been very helpful. Courtney was especially very helpful. Thank you. We started, we are not as big as Casto. There's 4 of us, 2 of us, Billy Cornegate and Warden Price, own Eastern Wrecker Service on Highway 70, and the other 2 of us live in Raleigh. I live in Chapel Hill. We started this project in 2021, so we're not as old as Casto, but it feels like we've been at it for 99 years. We got approved in 2022 and were given a sewer allocation at that time. We wanted to make improvements to the pump station then at the Walmart pump station, but there were plans already afoot to bypass the pump station with a new line, and we were encouraged not to do that, so we waited. Our sewer allocation expired along the way. We lost the contract for the first person that was going to build on it. We got a second contract was going to build on it. We went back the sewer and we asked for the sewer allocation. Joshua Baird encouraged us to apply for a new sewer allocation. And in fact, in several meetings and in an email, we indicated that we did not see an issue having town council reapprove the allocation. However, anticipate a new approval being subject to the completion of the town's new gravity line abandoning the Walmart pump station. I will never fight City Hall. You never win. So whatever y'all want to do, I am good with, and I appreciate Courtney's guidance very much. Whatever you do is fine. I just need sewer at some point, and it sure is easier to sell a project and get a builder if I have a sewer allocation, even though it can't be used until that sewer line is built, which now is fully funded. The route is 100% picked out. The design is 100% done, and understand that things are moving along. So whatever you want to do, I am content. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Questions or comments, Ms. Anderson?
Oh, I was ready to make a motion. I don't have
I'll
any
entertain the
questions.
motion.
I'll make a motion that based on the length of time until you actually need the wastewater allocation, I don't think it's a good precedent to allocate this at this point in the process, when you can always come back and handle that. So I am making a motion that we deny Resolution 2025-71.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for denial of 2025-71. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Now jumping down to staff reports, beginning with the town manager.
Mr. Mayor, I do believe there was an item that was pulled from the consent agenda earlier in the meeting that would have to be heard here under new business. It was
3D.
Item 3D or B? 3D, excuse me. Councilmember Casey asked for that one to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor and rest of council, considering some questions that I have regarding that resolution, and I don't think timing is as of extreme essence, I request that we table 3D to the next council meeting, and I can get some additional clarity regarding this item on the consent agenda. So if it's, if I would make a recommendation to table item 3D to the next town council meeting, September the 2nd.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to bring back this item 3D on the agenda for the next town council meeting. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Anything else from manager?
Yes. So a couple things real quick here for you all. First, I'd like to go ahead and bring up a project that we are moving forward with that we were fortunate enough to be able to afford through the Parks and Rec bonds from 2018, or the more recent sale in 2021. With their interest rates that we were able to get with the funding that was on there, we're actually happy to report that we are going to be able to move forward with replacing the playground out at Donald Clyde Sinclair Park. That is, if you recall, several years ago, there were improvements done to the park when we did dedicate that as Sinclair Park. The playground was not one of the replacements that had occurred at that time. Now we do have the funding to be able to do that through some positive interest rates and some other, just good fiscal management of the bond money. So we're excited. I'm going to ask Nathaniel if he can bring the image up on the screen for you all. This is an image of the playground that we've worked with one of our vendors, Burke, to purchase. As of right now, I believe it's scheduled to be complete. The delivery of the actual components later this fall. So between now and the end of the calendar year, we do anticipate that being installed and having it fully replaced. So we have a nice brand new playground there right here in downtown on Front Street. So big win for us overall. Like I said, positive interest rates here over the last several years with the bond money have afforded us some opportunities here. So we're excited to get this work done. Yes, question?
Mr. Sims.
Just want to make a comment on that. I'm really excited about that. Actually, and it's right here it says Donald Sinclair, but it's actually Clyde. And if you don't know it, he's the gentleman from played for the Harlem Globetrotters, and he's a little basketball hero here. He actually spoke with me last week. As you know, we've done some community things with him and the fire department, the police department, things like that. But he's actually just talked to me about wanting to do some other things from a family perspective at the park. So really welcome to this addition here, especially over on Front Street, to address some needs over there in that area.
Mr. Casey.
Correct, man. Obviously, I echo the sentiments of Councilman Sims. With this, this playground being installed here, will that basically we have renovated or had some sort of form of improvement for every single park that the town of Clayton manages? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually the only playground left in our portfolio currently that has not been replaced with some age on it, obviously. So we're excited to be able to kind of modernize the not only the playscape area or whatever, but just improve it from a safety perspective as well. So big win for us overall.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Looks like there's a lot of things that I didn't get to play on when I was a kid. So maybe I'll go there and enjoy it.
I think most of those are no longer certifiable from a safety perspective.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I was on those too. Couple other things real quick. You also have sitting in front of you the latest financial report through the month of June. These are not final audited results, so I will always throw that caveat there, but should give you a good indication of where the final FY25 books will end up. Not expecting you to go through it all right this minute, but certainly available for any questions. Myself or Robert McKay, our finance director, can provide any additional information for you. One other thing I just wanted to mention too, I know we've had several inquiries over the last week or so, particularly with regards to the hurricane or potential for Hurricane Aaron. As of right now, our emergency management staff are not seeing that we will see any significant impacts from it. We will continue to monitor the situation as it unfolds here over the next couple of days, but to date, or as of today, we are not anticipating having to initiate an EOC or anything like that, pending one of my chiefs call me and tell me that has to change. And last, I will say, I feel like I showed some pretty good restraint when Clemson was mentioned earlier, and I did not say go Tigers. It's a normal reaction, but I was able to keep it in. That's it. Thank you.
Is that it? Thank you, sir. Town attorney?
No report, Mayor.
Town clerk?
No report.
Good job. Any other staff? All right, I'll now open the floor for public comment. Anyone wish to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Logan Allen, and I live at 292 Stansbury Lane. Accountability is an act of love. I've shared that with so many of you in emails and an op-ed that I had published this week and in calls. It is not hostility. It is care for community, for children, for neighbors, and for the truth. And on July 28th, at the planning board meeting, I was seated, calm, respectful, and well-informed. When the co-chair looked in my direction and he said, we should be grateful that the plan wasn't worse. And I simply smiled and replied, could be better. For that, he threatened to have me removed by police. I was not disruptive, and I was not a threat. Men in the room shouted or even came up and spoke twice, which was not allowed. They faced no such threat. Only I did. That was intimidation, and it felt like it was meant to silence me. Councilmember Porter Casey, even while grieving a personal loss, he reached out to me, and in that call confirmed in his own words, because he was there, and said clearly I was not a threat. His integrity and his willingness to acknowledge the truth shows what accountability looks like, and I am very grateful to him. But that acknowledgement has not come from the rest of this body. My formal complaint has gone unanswered. Calls were not returned. Emails were not acknowledged, even when I said, please send confirmation of receipt. Yet, I do see in the own agenda packets, there is correspondence between developers, so I know that you're answering somebody, but it feels like citizens are met with silence. I want to be clear. I am not here out of hostility. I am here out of hope. Hope that my town that I live in will live up to its duty of fairness and transparency. Calling me hostile for naming what happened to me and asking for accountability for myself and my daughter, who is the future that we're raising here, is not hostile. Speaking hard truths about safety and fairness is not hostility. It is a love for my community. And I must speak a hard truth. As a Native woman with a disability, as a stroke survivor with a career in medicine and improvement science, with lived experience and publications of white papers across the nation, I know what it feels like to be dismissed, to be told in subtle and direct ways that my voice does not matter. And even when I am calm, kind, prepared, and informed, it is still not enough. And yet here I am, because silence will never keep us safe. It never kept us safe in the past, and it takes great courage and bravery to make change. Silence does not protect you. Accountability is not an attack. It is an act of love, and it is saying we believe Clayton deserves better, and we believe you can be the leaders who choose that, who choose transparency, fairness, and safety for all of us. And tonight, I invite you to respond to my emails and engage with me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll turn it over to council for comments. Mr. Sims.
So let me say this. I have been on the council now for 4 years. For 4 years, I have served on here as an African-American male. With that being said, I have, and my wife can justify to this, unfortunately, because it has gotten on her nerves. Out of the 32,000 residents that we serve, I have met with a majority of them. Am I 100%? Absolutely not. I am in the 99 percentile. If I made a mistake and it's somebody that I did not reach out to, it wasn't out of any type of way that I'm trying to ignore citizens. I have stated to this council, a lot of people know, I have spent 21 years in the United States Marine Corps, to include combat in Iraq. Why do I always say that? And I will continue to say that because I have extended myself to the utmost, to not just the town of Clayton, to the United States. I try to, as much as possible, meet the needs of any and everybody. But at the same time, if a person, and I just had this happen, literally with the Dogwood people that were here, they met me out in the hall and said, hey, thank you. We've heard about you. 2 of them said, we would like to meet with you because they said, we heard that you will meet with everybody. I have 2 appointments scheduled. So what do I mean? There's still a place right here this evening where a person can come up and say, hey, you know what? I have not heard from you. I would like to meet with you. So I remember myself when I was sitting on that side of the aisle, there was things that I had issues with the particular council, not to the extent where I would badmouth them or say anything else. I looked at how can I still reach out to them, because I had an understanding that, you know what, sometimes people have other things, but if I'm going to reach out as much as I possibly can and say who I say that I am, I'm going to at least try to go to the fullest to meet with them. By no means is there anything negative that I mean for anybody. So I want the citizens and everyone to know that Mike Stims is available. We'll sit down with anybody for coffee. If you don't get me via email, and I'm not going to use an excuse because I've had some things happen or whatever, and I'm not even going to that. I take full responsibility. I have no problems with that. You can, any and everybody can still reach out to the fullest means to try to contact me, and I have no problem sitting down with any and everybody. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Anybody, any other comments? All right.
Sorry, I have a couple of things. First off, where was I at? Hold on. I know we talked about school safety tonight. So one of the things I had that I wanted to make sure we talk about or we put on our radar is, you know, obviously as school starts back, making sure that the crosswalks are painted, make sure that we kind of do an assessment and a check for all our schools within the town limits, that we've done our fullest extent from a town safety perspective, that's being done. And then I know that I had a constituent reach out to me regarding speed tables and just, you know, what is the traffic calming mechanisms that we have in our toolbox that we can help mitigate some of these areas in town near, especially the high school. You got high school kids, you know, I was that way when I got my license, you know, running, you know, driving and stuff like that. But anyway, what, you know, we want to make sure we are conscientious of these things. So that's one thing. I don't know if you want to speak, but then I have something else too.
Yeah, real quick to address that. So these types of requests, typically we have a traffic and safety committee that reviews them. They formally meet quarterly, but as these things come in, we kind of get them starting to weigh in on it so they can be productive on that. We do have a policy that has several different tools in the toolbox, speed tables being one of them. There's an analysis that has to be done in order to be able to understand what is the appropriate measures for the speeds, location, et cetera. So certainly can work with staff to review all the areas around the existing schools we have here in town, as well as look at just the condition of the crosswalks and the signage. As you know, crosswalks with and signage that have high visibility, those have to be refreshed every several years just to maintain compliance. So we can certainly do an audit of that and see if there's any opportunities to improve or augment what we've got.
Cool, thank you. I know one of the thoughts I had too was I know Fayetteville Street is a town-owned road. You have that crosswalk there. There's not a stoplight or stop sign at that intersection. If we could even put like a, you know, hey, something in the road or something. They make certain things that you obviously can just designate those areas and point them out from a safety perspective. Yeah, if that's even possible.
Fayetteville Street, I believe, as part of the CHS project, they have been reviewing overall all the roadways around the high school there. I'll kick it to Courtney if she's got better information than I do right now in terms of what they are proposing.
Yeah, okay. And then sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, as part of the TIA study, pedestrian traffic was included since students do walk so often and park in different parking lots and walk. I'll have to pull it up, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I know that was part of the study that our traffic engineer wanted included, and I'll get the feedback. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head, but that was included.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. If there's obviously any low-hanging fruit that we can do, you know, in the meantime, I think that's definitely beneficial. Second thing I had, and I brought this up a while back, is regarding the Front Street corridor with respect to the cross streets where you have Fayetteville Street and you have Church Street. My daughter's moved on from Cooper now, but I know that during school season, that corridor it's busy already, but it gets even more busy where you have people taking their kids over to Cooper. I know that people that drive down Front Street go down it and they don't really think, they see it's a long straight street, but, because of the railroad, there's a lot of stop signs there, especially at Fayetteville and the church. And I know there's a stop sign, but I'd love to see some markings on the street, just designating, hey, this is where you need to stop, or something else, something further that can give somebody an indication that they need to stop. Because I know, speaking to some of the people in the community there was an accident there last week. I personally have almost gotten hit by somebody not stopping at that stop sign at the Church Seat intersection, but the Fayetteville Street intersection is the same. So if there's something that we can do to improve that area, I think that would be very, very, very beneficial.
Yeah, again, certainly we'll go to our streets department, see if there's any refreshing of any markings or additional markings, as well as maybe consider some reflectors or some flashing beacons like we've done in some other areas, just to bring awareness to make sure folks understand that they are full stop conditions and not a straightaway the whole way.
Yeah, thank you. And then lastly, this wasn't planned, but I appreciate the comments, tonight and the input. I apologize. I have been in many of a planning board meeting and sitting up here on council, and you got a big audience. It's pretty darn intimidating sitting up here. And I've been in a meeting in the back. It was about 2 years ago where it wasn't any one individual person, but the audience started getting kind of amplified, and not saying that was the case at this last planning board meeting, but I ended up having to call the police chief to say, we need to get a police officer out here. And I'm not saying that that's the direction that was going in that night. I was here. But I think, and I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody by no means, but I think that there was probably a concern because that can get going. And Mayor, you've been up here long enough to know that it can go from mellow to, off the charts in a minute. And it's one of those things where it's a gut call. Sometimes the call is probably the right call. Sometimes the call is premature. So, thank you for your comments. You were a pleasure to talk with, and I just want to just kind of add that. So, that's all I have to say. I'm tired.
We all are. Everybody's dying to know what I'm going to say about the TikTok video, right? And I'm sorry that got put out there. And I'm sorry that the mayor of the town of Clayton was misrepresented by someone who said the mayor doesn't give a F-bomb. Well, it's out there. It's probably one of her biggest TikTok videos ever. I've been the mayor of Clayton since 2003. I love my hometown. And I'm honored to know that people want to come and live here, that we have created an environment and a sense of community that made people want to come and live in Clayton, North Carolina. And I'm proud of that. What I'm not proud of is being misrepresented by someone who's saying this guy doesn't give a F-bomb, because that's the furthest from the truth. But I will say this, the positive from all of that was hundreds of people communicating how much they appreciate the good work that we do in the town of Clayton. So for that, I am extremely grateful. All right, is there anything else to come before this board? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Motion carries. Good night.